Strong narrative around smart cities, digital India, healthcare, Swachh Bharat, human resource issues, education, banking and finance, among others.
The world is fast changing. Best practices are available now on the net.
विकास डेवलपमेंट पूरी राजनीति में ये फोकस बन गया है.
BW Business World events provide a speaking platform to the voices that matter.
स्मार्ट से ताल्लुक़ यह है कि हम जो बेसिक एमिनिटीज़ हैं उसको हम चुस्त दुरुस्त करें.
You don't have to be a technologist. You need to understand how technology influences the world.
Mahatma Gandhi was a great man. He was the leader of the freedom struggle.
We believe that e-governance and IoT will play a very, very important role.
BW Business World is an excellent exhibition platform that helps you showcase your services to the right audience. BW Business World's digital transformation went on the fast track in 2020, marrying its legacy of credibility and robust business journalism to a technology-first world. Hosting over 250 virtual summits and webinars across its 17 niche business communities, with millions engaging with the power-packed content like BW Dialogue Series, Festival of Life web series, and custom-created webinars and hosting 20+ virtual summits. $33 million page views on an average, 21 special issues in 2020 hit the stands, and multiple IPs scheduled in the coming months. BW has taken a leadership position in the business news segment. To become a part of our legacy, write to us at partner@businessworld.in.
A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you joining us here virtually today. My name is Aditya Malik, and it's an honor to be your host for today. I'm also thrilled to kickstart the Outstanding Security Performance Awards, OSPAs 2021, powered by the latest community of BW Business World, BW Security World. The Outstanding Security Performance Awards, or OSPAs, recognize and reward companies and individuals across the security sector. The OSPAs are designed to be both independent and inclusive, providing an opportunity for outstanding performers, whether buyers or suppliers, to be recognized and their success to be celebrated. The OSPAs schemes provide an opportunity for countries to run their own evidence-based OSPA schemes while maintaining an ability to compete on an international level in the future. World OSPAs. BW Security World is the one-stop platform for all news, interviews, insights, interactions pertaining to the industry. BW Security World brings the Indian OSPAs Awards ceremony, which aims to showcase exemplary progress across the security sector. This virtual conclave will bring together eminent thought leaders and policymakers and stakeholders of security sector to share their insights on future of Indian security. Launched 4 decades ago, BW Business World today is a fortnightly magazine that has come to be renowned amongst India's largest and most respected business magazines. BW Business World, led by Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, is the fastest growing business media house in the country. With a thought leadership bent in the domain and network spanning across 18 niche business communities and 8 magazines, BW Business World is proud to be entrenched in various verticals in the domestic as well as global business ecosystem. We also curate and conduct close to 100 of our own IP events throughout the year in a focused attempt to keep our communities meaningfully engaged with each other and a rapidly growing consumer base across industries. Today's events will be enlivened by a series of fireside chats and panel discussions that will identify and discuss about the best practices, innovative ideas, and future-ready solutions for transforming India into a digitally empowered society through interactive participation of key stakeholders. Well, now that we're talking of our partners, we would also take this moment to thank all our partners. The presenting partner, CP Plus, associate partner, Peregrine, supporting partners, Asian Professional Security Association, India Chapter, Central Association of Private Security Industry, CAPSI, Electronic Security Association of India, GACS, International Council for Industrial Security and Safety Management, Internal Security, Safety and Protection Industry Association, ISIS International, and WESS. Also, a big thank you to our media partners, International Security Journal, ISJ, and the Security Link India. Well, now that we're good to go, may I please request the AV of a presenting partner, CP Plus, to be played.
OMG. ओहो, अपलम चपलम पकड़म पकड़ा खेल रहे हो?
नहीं मैंने बहन जी को पहचाना ही नहीं।
बहन जी, लेकिन ऊपर वाले ने यानी कि सीपी प्लस ने तुम्हें दूर से पहचान लिया। बंधु, टेक्नोलॉजी बिकम फार टू इंटेलिजेंट। बी छोरा, नॉट छिचोरा। कट लो। सीपी प्लस इंटेलिजेंट सिक्योरिटी सिस्टम्स। बी केयरफुल क्योंकि ऊपर वाला सब देख रहा है।
Well, that was the AV of a presenting partner, CP Plus. And also, we are live today on bwsecurityworld.com and all our social media handles. Please use the hashtag OSPAS. That's OSPAS India 2021 on all your social media posts. May I now please request the BW Security World AV to be played to give our audience a glimpse of our community. Lovely. And now, to begin the day's proceedings, I invite Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, BW Business World and Exchange for Media Group, to please say a few words and give the inaugural address. Mr. Batra.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for hosting this very prestigious initiative. OSPAS India, started by Dr. Martin Gill in partnership with BW Business World and BW Security World, is now in India in the second year. Hopefully, in the third year, we're looking to do a formal physical face-to-face event, and we'll be able to get the OSPAS team, Dr. Martin Gill and his team, to India. Thank you to Mr. Rajiv Mathur for making this partnership happen. I can only say that security is becoming more and more important. The professional outsourced services industry continues to grow. Security is a very large part of it, but the security industry is no longer restricted to physical security, data security, internet security, and also facilities management, cash transit. All the areas are growing. So newer and newer entrants are coming into this play. Also, as we have to prevent the break of outbreaks like the COVID, we will need to manage our crowds better. So clearly, how do we make sure we keep social distancing? We have masks, we do sanitization of individuals and communities and offices, facilities, retail places. That has also become an important task for the security professionals. So we also want to say that we also have bwpoliceworld.com, which looks at the police community. We have bwdefenseworld.com, which looks at the defense ecosystem, defense and aerospace ecosystem. And BW Police World partners with all the security apparatus in the country to be able to build a community in that domain. So clearly, with BW Security World, we will complete the offering. There are some overlaps in 3 offerings, but all 3 are distinct. Now, the jury process, the OSPAS, the jury was chaired by Shri Kunwar Vikram Singh Ji. Really doesn't need an introduction to this August gathering, and was a very robust process as the OSPAS and the BW Business World team ran it. So today's winners are selected through this jury process. In a while, Shri Kunwar Vikram Singh Ji will join in sharing his experience in leading the jury and choosing the winners. We're grateful to him and all the jury members for making time. Hopefully, as we grow within this domain, we'll be able to serve the information and insight needs of the security services industry. This is an industry that is growing very fast, and we hope to be a catalyst in the growth of this industry. Thank you so much. I look forward to celebrating the winners at the second edition of the OSPAS India in association with BW Security World in the evening. In between, I'll also be doing a conversation with Shri Manjeet Rajayan Ji, who is the founder of Tenon Group, which is a large player in the complete ecosystem of professional outsourced services. So back to you, Mr. Malik, so that you can take the rest of the event forward. Thank you again to all of you for participating in this initiative in the awards in today's conference. Professor Martin Gill has also joined us. He's the founder of OSPAS, and we will look forward to his giving us his address in a while. Thank you so much, and back to you, Aditya. Welcome, Professor Gill.
Thank you so much, Mr. Batra. Always a pleasure to hear you speak, and of course, your introductory addresses. With that, I think you're good to go ahead. And now, to introduce you to the world of OSPAS and to also give you the welcome address, ladies and gentlemen, I have this honor of welcoming on screen Professor Martin Gill, founder, Outstanding Security Performance Awards. Sir.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mack. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm speaking to you in India from the United Kingdom. And I just want to say a big thank you to Anurag and the Be Well team, and to my own team, Christine, Claire and Sarah, who have been instrumental in bringing these awards to India. It's a great joint effort, I have to say. And also to Rajiv Marva, who's played an instrumental role. Now, there are many award schemes out there. And the thing is, why is the OSPAs different? And this is the really important point that we wish to emphasize, that not all award schemes are the same. That doesn't mean to say they don't have a value, but they're not the same. And the OSPAs was developed in order to create the fairest possible judging process. So the idea is that we, the organisers, along with Business World, don't appoint the judges. They're appointed by all the associations in India. And the judges agree to mark to an ethics policy. And they all mark independently, by the way, and submit their scores in. And they have to declare any conflict of interest. In other words, what we're trying to create is a level playing field to find the fairest way of judging who the outstanding performers are. And all the categories have very specific criteria, which is designed to distinguish the outstanding from the good, not the outstanding from the poor. And that's all published and available on the website. So you see, that's one reason why the OSPAs are different. They're based on being transparent and on being ethical and on creating a fair and level playing field in a way that is very, very difficult to do, and others are now trying to emulate. But the second reason why the OSPAs is different, as Anurag said, is that these have been organised around the world. And I'm pleased to say that in 2022, next year, we introduced 4 new countries: Canada, France, Ireland, and New Zealand. That's 15 in all already. And we're already negotiating to launch in more parts of the world. In other words, the same categories, the same ethical principles, the same process is being organised to create a worldwide identification of who the best performances in security are. And one final comment from me, if I might. You know, too often the security world has operated under the radar. It's been very shy at putting itself forward. But we know, as Anurag said, that security is growing in all its dimensions, not just in India, but globally too. And we have an opportunity to make sure that those who are really good at it are identified, to set the examples, to be the ones to follow. And that's a very, very important process for any security element anywhere in the world. So I'm delighted to be part of the OSPAs team that brings you a way of making sure that what we do is we identify those who are exceptionally good at what they do. Very, very good. That's the idea of the OSPAs, not those who are just doing an okay job, those who are exceptional. And all around the world, right now today, there will be those looking at India. They will be looking at who the outstanding performers are. They will be finding out more details on social media, because the issue of who is special, who's doing an outstanding job, is an international issue as far as security is concerned. So many congratulations to all the finalists, and I very much look forward to an entertaining day ahead, an excellent set of speakers, and I'll be rejoining you later in the day as we announce who the OSPAs winners are, and we look to identify those who are really, really good at what they do. More of that later. Now for the interesting presentations that have been organised for you, I pass you back to Mr. Malik. Mr. Malik, back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much. And of course, we will hear from you in the evening as well. And now moving on with the jury chair address, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on screen Kuwar Vikram Singh, Chairman, CAPC. Welcome, sir. Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Fine, very well, Aditya, fine, very well. Kindly start my video. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Anurag Batra and his team, and Dr. Professor Martin Gill for getting me involved in these prestigious Outstanding Performance Awards in security domain. It is indeed my great pleasure. Absolutely. See, when you get participated into a domain which is so close to you, you know, for the last, say, about how many, 20, 30 years, we've been working with so many professionals. day in, day out, talking to them, interacting with them. And you also know the performance of each and everybody, because it's for a long time we know each other so well. And it's not difficult to find who's done his performance extremely well in particular field or other areas. Industry is maturing very well, and people are also getting qualified, trained, upgrading their skills to meet various kind of challenges, and to recognize these people for their achievement, for their performance. I think this OSPA is a one opportunity where people will be recognized internationally. They're already doing in many countries, and India also is a second edition. I was asked to chair the jury. It was, like I said, it's not a difficult job because you know people very well who's done it, and especially at this time of the year, I will not hesitate to say that during the lockdown period, I think all of us has gone through a different kind of environment, different kind of challenges. Say it's security guards, supervisors, security corporate professionals, the managing directors and managers of the various private security agencies. It was the first time that we all together saw a huge pandemic and the way to deal with this. And since the government, announced us as an essential service, which gave us a rather more responsibility to make sure that everything goes right and the property is protected, people are protected, and everything is done. And during this time, ladies and gentlemen, I had a great pleasure of interacting with everybody, most of people, and guiding them, telling them what to do and all that. End of the whole thing is to say that every security guard deserved to be awarded an outstanding, performance award. Every security guard, every security officer, every security managing director, every security corporate, manager, their performance was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. That's the reason that we could manage to protect communities, people, assets, and all this. So they deserve. This is the one reason that we at the CAPC, distributed more than about 4 lakh certificate of appreciation to all those security guards and officers, because they did such a good job, and everybody did a good job. There's no doubt about it, absolutely. But nevertheless, this opportunity to pick up the diamond from so many diamonds, to pick up professionals who was, all of them, they did a good job. But the matrix was used by the OSPA, was very unique in its own way. And we as a jury, we try to go through the merits and demerits and the area of expertise very closely. There were some kind of conflict where we realized that I know these guys so very well. I said, no, I'm not going to judge everybody. Reason being, only 2 days ago, the CAPC announced its own security awards. And I was in such a predicament that I announced somebody as a best company yesterday. I can't announce a second company best today. Keeping those in mind, even then, the honesty, the transparency, the way all judges, they contributed. Their marking system was so good, and ultimately, without any issue, they gave their own rating because they knew them very well, and also must have dealt with them and gone through their various documents they have, submitted, the answers and questions. This was done very well by the OSPA team. There's no doubt about it, and it took us not more than say 1.5 hours to reach our conclusions, and we selected best people, outstanding people out of the whole lot of outstanding professionals and guards and all that. And it is a new beginning, absolutely new beginning, a second time and third time. The OSPA business world or security world people, they may evolve a different methodology because the security, I find it very slightly where you need more inputs, more more ways to find out, more to find out who is a good, who's not that good, because I find whosoever is performing duty and there's no complaint against him, he is performing very well. And a person who has a growth, business has growth, is from a small company to become a bigger company, has contributed a lot. They're larger companies, they have already achieved those excellence, and they are doing very well to maintain their standards also. But maybe next time we may have to have a different metrics. This metrics was very good. There's no doubt what we'd like. Martin said that there's a total transparency and the system was good and the way they have done it. And I congratulate Dr. Martin, Dr. Batra, his entire team, and Rajiv Mathur has done a good job, absolutely. So it is once again great pleasure on behalf of all the judges, those who participated, and they given their own scores, and ultimately we reached to the conclusions who's a good and a better. And I think the announcement and the judgments will be pleasant, and people will definitely accept the way we have handled. Thank you very much. So nice of you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a jury chair member, Kuwar Vikram Singh, Chairman CAPC. And I guess now you would all believe and you would agree with me that women today are at the helm of everything that we do, and bang on, they do it absolutely right. And how could we miss out on women when we're talking about our panel? We're talking about security as in general, as the society, as a sector as a whole. And now moving towards our next session, it's on empowering women security professionals. It's a keynote address by Major Vashita Mehra, Country Head Security, Marsh McLennan. Ma'am, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for having me here. And am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Mathur. Thank you, OSPA. Thank you, Business World, for inviting me as a keynote speaker to this esteemed forum. I'm indeed honored. And the cherry on the cake is that I have an opportunity to speak on a topic that I'm most passionate about: empowering women security professionals. So I'll take you through some aspects, but it's very personally related. It's very personally motivated. All these opinions are mine, and feel free to kind of accept those or negate those. Totally up to you. So here it goes. I started my corporate journey some 12, 13 years back. In those days, any security forum, any security event that I would go to, I would stick out like a sore thumb. Why? Because in an attendance of 100 people, we would just be 3-4 women standing in a corner. And it was super skewed and very uncomfortable at times. But thankfully, this is encouragingly changing in the last few years. And while the ratio may not be 50-50 yet, but it has increased a lot. But I'm sure you will all agree with me that we still have miles to go in this domain to make it lucrative and attractive for women, and remove the age-old concept and notion that security is just for men. Not anymore. Today, there are a few of us, but each of you can do so much more to ensure that we become many of us. 10, 15 years back, we didn't have such forums and platforms and events to talk to an esteemed audience like yourself and to tell them how they can empower women. What can they do in their scope to empower women? But today, I am fortunate enough to have this platform, and I want to make the most of it, because maybe somewhere, somehow, it's going to positively impact some aspiring professional. So I bring forth to you a few points based on my journey, my professional journey, to empower women professionals in your respective areas of influence. And I hope it hits a nerve somewhere and sets the mind ticking. My first point would be, empower her by hiring her. Check out your team diversity ratio. And if there are not enough women in your team, then you need to hire women, more women. This is a resource base which has still not been fully tapped. So I would urge you to leverage on it. Why would you waste an opportunity to hire someone who brings to you loyalty, intelligence, passion, expertise to the table? When I got my first break in the industry, I used to put twice the work, late hours, and so much more effort as compared to others. because I had this need, this hunger, this desire to prove myself. Until date, I'm extremely driven because this position, this job, this recognition has not come easy. And neither is this the end of the road for me. It is therefore in an organization's benefit, in your benefit, to hire women and train them to be future leaders for tomorrow. You will get a resource who is highly motivated, and their E-quotient may bring in a different perspective, which may positively impact your whole team. Who knows? Secondly, empower her with respect and equality. Due to the socio-cultural environment that we have grown in, there are always elements of subconscious bias that women have to face. I have faced many myself, and I talk from experience. How I dressed, how I looked, how I talked was all subject of intense scrutinization at work by some of my peers and some of my managers. And here's a disclaimer, I'm not generalizing. Some of the best managers I've had have been men, and some of the best peers I've had, colleagues I've had have been men. But coming back to the point, when this scrutinization, this intense, you're subject of people looking at you and scrutinizing you, what does it do to you? It undermines your confidence, it chips away at your confidence and makes you a shadow of yourself. You're afraid to speak at meetings, you're afraid to put a point of view forward because you know that, or you feel that you would be shut down. So in order to empower a woman you have hired or who is your colleague, you need to treat her with respect and equality that she deserves. She is here on her own accord, on her hard work, her intelligence, and her will. Respect that. It may be difficult to do this at times because there is centuries of conditioning that decides within us on what a woman should do rather than what a woman can do. Try to recognize that subconscious conditioning within you and remove it, because only then will you make an environment conducive for her to work in. My third point, empower her by enabling her, train her, coach her, and trust her with more projects to lead, as you would do with any other of your team members. Women may have a different way of looking at things and men have a different way of looking at things, but that does not mean that either of the perspectives are wrong. In fact, a different view should be encouraged as it may lead to the handling of things in a newer way, thus bringing in a novelty that could have been missing initially. Also, by showing your faith and trust in her and by training her to take on bigger projects, you make her feel a valued member of your team who's been given equal opportunities to grow and flourish. Fourthly, empower her with empathy. The importance of empathy cannot be overemphasized enough. There is a saying that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So just to understand this point better, let me put the empathy bug in you right here, right now, with a general example. Each of you here who's sitting may have a daughter, a sister, a wife. Now think, she goes for a job interview tomorrow and she's not hired because she's a certain age. Just a general example, random example I'm giving, right? Because the interviewer feels, oh, but she's too young. If we hire her, she'll soon get married and she will soon go on maternity leave. What will we do then? Would you like the fact that your daughter, your wife, your sister is being treated differently just in anticipation of a biological fact? That she missed out on a job or a promotion or a big project because she was discriminated against on the basis of some random, deep-rooted, irrelevant notion? Seriously? Of course, she will need to go on maternity leave if she has to. Factor that in. Have someone take her responsibilities till the time she comes back. You are a leader. I'm sure you can manage that much easily. After 6 months, when she comes back and wants to rejoin, be happy about it. You know why? Because you are getting back a more mature and a stronger team member who wants to prove herself after a long absence. Your empathy and trust will build her self-confidence and loyalty towards you. My fifth point, empower her with ambition. This is the word which confuses the typical average mind. If a man is ambitious, he is driven. If a woman is ambitious, she's too aggressive. Well, I, for one, am ambitious and proud to say so. For me, the word ambitious means I am driven, I am self-motivated, and I have the desire to be successful. And why not? What's wrong with having milestones set in your career and moving towards achieving each milestone one by one? Tick, tick, tick. I would say empower your women team members with ambition, as that ambition will give her wings to fly unapologetically. And last but not the least, and this is the most important point because I'll give you an example on why. Empower her by being a vocal ally of hers. Who is the vocal ally? Someone who speaks up for you. Today, I may know how to fight my battles. And over the years, I've gained the experience and the confidence to speak for myself. But when I started out, it would have been a good thing to have a manager or a colleague who would support me openly rather than standing on the sidelines. Support positively, because that enables and emboldens the person who's in a minority in your team. Giving you an example that I promised I would. A few years back, I had the opportunity to attend an event where a senior woman leader was talking about her journey. What she was talking about was very relevant, very important from her perspective. And she was trying to make the audience understand that perspective. In the middle of her speech, she was interrupted by some seasoned security members in the audience, and they tried to contradict her. I will never forget what happened after that. The woman in question gracefully kept quiet. But one of the men in the audience stood up with confidence and courage and told the other seasoned men who had kind of interrupted her speech, told them to please not interrupt the lady and let her continue. One vocal ally and the whole audience was silenced. One vocal ally and she could complete her speech with confidence and relay the message that she wanted to. One vocal ally and those seasoned members who thought they knew it all kept quiet and listened to her with respect. Till date, I remember that young gentleman. And whenever I meet him, I always thank him for standing up for that lady. So speak up, be a vocal ally. And when you see that something is not right, say it. Think. This is where again empathy comes in. Think, would you want to be subjected to that kind of an attitude, to that kind of a situation? If not, then have the confidence to stand up for her and say something. So many points, but not so many points, just 7 of them or 6 of them. I will summarize by narrating a recent incident where a friend of mine, and in fact, she's here right now, Veena, from the security industry, made a very valid point when she pointed out that no one refers to men in security. So why say women in security? At the end of the day, we are all security professionals. So why this gender demarcation, women in security? And I couldn't agree with her more. So completely right she is, 10 on 10. But I think that for the term women in security to be completely replaced by security professionals, we need more numbers, more inclusion, more representation of women. Till the time we are a handful few, it will always be women in security. And that's what we here need to change. So in a nutshell, hire her. That's your first empowerment. Treat her with respect and equality. That's your second empowerment. Enable her. Be empathetic towards her. Fuel her ambition and be a vocal ally for her. Believe me, she can and she will fight her battles. But your support gives her that extra boost. These are fantastic times that we live in, right? Where diversity, equity, inclusion have become key words in a fast-changing socioeconomic global environment. The question is, what is the question? The question is, sirs and ladies and gentlemen, are you changing fast enough or getting left behind? We, as women, are here to stay, and our numbers will increase steadily and continuously. I invite you to become an enabling and empowering part of this evolution. Thank you and good evening. Have a lovely Christmas and a fantastic New Year ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Major. Well, in a nutshell, as she has just mentioned, that hire women, empower them if you haven't done so, and of course, to better the output of your own organization or your sector as a whole. Thank you so much for that. I guess it was much needed for all of us to hear that. And moving towards our next session. But before we do that, we once again would love to play the AV of a presenting partner, CP+.
नानी तेरी मोरनी को मोर ले गए, जो बचा था काले चोर ले गए।
जंगलियों, जंगल में मोर नाचा, सबने देखा, वो देखो CP+। ऊपर वाले को अंधेरे में भी सब कुछ दिखता है।
नाइट विजन।
सॉरी, अब नो मोर चोरी। ओके। CP+ इंटेलिजेंट सिक्योरिटी सिस्टम्स, बी केयरफुल क्योंकि ऊपर वाला सब देख रहा है।
याद रखिएगा कि ऊपर वाला सब देख रहा है. So that was a presenting partner, CP+. And now moving towards our first panel discussion for today. It's on key challenges for security organizations and Vision 2030. Policies, employment generation, and business opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming on screen our panelist, Vishal Thapar, Group Editorial Head, Defense and Security, BW Business World. I'm sorry, he's the moderator for the session. Now, our panelist, Major General Sanjay Soy, CEO, Security Sector Skill Development Council, Captain S.B. Tyagi, Chief Counselor, ICI SSM, and Captain Sanjay Sharma, Global Security Head, Wipro Limited. And as I mentioned, moderating this session is Vishal Thapar, Group Editorial Head, Defense and Security, BW Business World. Welcome, gentlemen.
So hello and welcome to the first panel discussion of the Outstanding Security Performance Awards India, powered by BW Security World. The topic for the discussion is key challenges for security organizations and Vision 2030 on policies, employment generation, and business opportunity. So as we transit from a blue collar to a technology-enabled security service, we hope to have some candor and introspection on where we are and where we want to be, and what are the skill gaps that need to be addressed for the road ahead. We have a very eminent panel. Major General Sanjay Soy, Distinguished Army Officer, now CEO, Security Sector Skill Development Council. Captain S.B. Tyagi, Chief Counselor, International Council of Security and Safety Management, formerly General Manager of the Gas Authority India Limited. And Captain Sanjay Sharma, Global Security Head, Wipro, was earlier with Nestle, and he has served with Army Air Defense in the earlier part of his career. Let's go first to General Soy and put this to him, that what really is the present position, and what is the road ahead, sir?
Yeah, is the video on? I'm just trying to...
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for inviting me for this OSPA Awards. And it's a great honor for me. And if you see that, Vishal, the present scenario, yeah. Can you see?
Yes, we see you, sir. You're there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So present scenario, if you see this, the subject which you have mentioned is the key challenges to security organizations and Vision 2030. Yes. So we start with the present scenario, how the things are at present, right? At present, if you see, the private security industry in India is almost 10 million strong and with almost 24,000 security agencies, and the growth rate is 20%. And the current efficiency is also 20%. So that means at present, 20 lakh deficiency is already there, and there's a huge demand which is coming up of 20%. That is 20 lakh. That is almost 40 lakh people are there to get employment in this sector. And the fact is, how this growth is taking place, it is not, the things are changing from blue collar to white collar, as you just mentioned, is it's not going to be the same chowkidar or danda man in times to come. It is going to be high-tech, security-enabled, and the integration of technology and manpower together with the security industry.
So, General Swai, could you give us a sense of what is changing and how you're doing it?
In fact, if you see this, at present, how this thing is happening, I'll just take slight background to this is that when the economy opened up, till then it was more or less chowkidar and there's hardly anything, and the things are with the growing of economy, the things have happened with the coming out of the malls, the office complexes, the townships, the government offices, the MNCs, a lot of things, factories, infrastructure development, all these things put a huge demand on security industry. And there's a tremendous growth rate, and which is happening in times to come also. It is said that by 2025, the total demand or people being employed would be almost 20 million. So what's happening now is with this, the integration of the technology has to take place at present. And there's some challenges which are there in India. Yes. One is that quality of security personnel, which is very, very serious challenge and which we need to look into, think over it. And we are doing it, like I would say that as an organization of SSSDC, and I'm also already a CEO of CAPC, our focus is to take the training level to and the security industry level to global level.
Surely. So what is the Skill Council doing about it, sir?
Basically, what we are focusing, like at present, as a CAPC, we have signed number of MOUs with whether it's Security Association of South Africa, Security Institute of UK, or International Security Industry Organization, that is ISIO for Biological Threat Security, or International Association of Security Investigator Regulator, that is ISAIR. They are the regulators of 52 states in US and other countries. And also training on the disaster management. And we are also focusing on now recently we have signed up a MOU with International Foundation of Protection Officers. They are the international. At the same time, we are also focusing at the known domestic universities like Rashtriya Raksha University. We have signed a MOU, and there was a round table discussion with Rashtriya Raksha University recently, where they had called the reps of the private security industry and the users. Our chairman, Kumar Vikram Singh, and Secretary General, Mr. Mahesh Sharma, attended the thing. That is where the focus is on where to take this training so that our security personnel are enabled to take up the jobs not only at domestic level but international level, and they are able to meet the challenges of the future. That is that when they are able to take on the challenges of integration of technology with security, which is actually on ground. If you see, the perception is that quality of security personnel needs to be improved drastically.
So when you're talking, General, when you're talking about the challenges of the future, let's take the discussion to the corporate security expert here, Captain Sharma, who also represents the end users of the private security services. Is Captain Sharma here?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Welcome to the discussion, sir. So give us a sense of the increasing complexity of security challenges faced by private organizations like yours. What are your expectations from private security providers? And do the private security agencies measure up to your requirements, sir?
Thank you. It's a very interesting question, and I must thank OSPA for providing this platform to me to come and share my views on this one. You see, the challenges before a corporate CSO are multifold, and more so when you're operating at a global scale in an IT industry of our stature. We operate in close to 55 countries. And so the biggest challenge is to deliver a consistent security experience. Maybe one Wipro, one security experience, if I have to put it in my corporate terms. And, with a multitude of change in regulations, culture, and the way security is managed globally, that makes the job, really very complex for us to deliver a consistent employee experience consistent client experience, and do a similar business assurance across geographies. Now, unfortunately, in the Indian context, there are no standards which can be called as minimum standards on security. So mostly it is the corporate that is devising some standards to suit its needs when they operate a business establishment. So while companies like me or others may have developed some benchmark standards or minimum security standards that may align to some global best practices. But if you talk of legislative control, other than the Private Security Agency Regulation Act, which is more a regulatory act for controlling the licensing and the service offering by the private security agencies, there is truly no legislation in India which controls a minimum security delivery in a business enterprise, or even in a public sector or a public-private type facility, which is more private like a mall, but more public in terms of its usage. So that's one big challenge before the government to address this issue. Even if you see these standards around the electronic security devices and the arrangements around electronic security deployments, there is no minimum standard in India on CCTV or access systems or such deployments. Unlike in UK, where there could be even a CCTV commissioner in London, and he will have a full structure to look at the data control exercised by the CCTV video surveillance systems. So truly, there is a huge gap within India. Furthermore, if you see the availability of manpower in India, again, there is no minimum education qualification that is prescribed. And mostly the intake that is coming to perform security officer or private security guard duties as legislated, the intake level is class 8. And the world is changing very, very fast in terms of the technological adaptation and the evolution of technology. COVID is one great example where a lot of companies adopted contactless entry and adopted various methods of access, which was operated by security guards. Now, there could be other heavy investments in security by other corporates in terms of control room infrastructure, command center infrastructure, applications that control access systems, video surveillance system, perimeter intrusion system, and likewise. Now, to operate that heavy asset in terms of the investment appetite that the company has provided, you really need trained manpower on certain degree of skills. So mostly what I have seen in India is that the guards end up becoming the operative side of these systems rather than people coming from ITI qualifications or engineering backgrounds or short courses that qualify them to operate this systems. So replacement of this manpower is a huge challenge. At the same time, skilling of these manpower is a huge issue because each company may operate a different technology and a different system. But even on the principal side, that education is lacking. I think it's high time that we have to really look up to a vision of 2030 and days to come. The industry focuses its attention on digital transformation and looks at developing the manpower that has to operate the systems or come and operate a security function, whether as a partnership approach or as a contracted service.
Captain Sharma, you represent a very high-tech company, a major high-tech company. What's your sense? I mean, of course, you conveyed through your initial remarks that there is a big gap between the expectation of corporates like yours and the kind of service which is being provided by a growing private sector security industry. Do you believe that they are ready for technology enablement? How ready are they? Are they, in your experience, how ready are they to embrace technology?
Let me answer that. There was an interesting study carried out between Accenture and Microsoft on the future of security for the last 5 years back. So it was covering right up to 2021. And they looked at this aspect. And one of the findings in that report is that the industry maturity on adaptation of these skills, India is lagging behind nearly by a decade. So that is the current situation in terms of the manpower quality or training quality that is available in India. And for right reasons, the industry has not been able to do a good attraction in terms of creating the right job roles, right pay levels, and the right career pathing for such manpower. That is causing this divide to only increase by the day.
So, Captain Sharma, you represent the corporate sector view. Let me take this to Captain Tyagi, who's had significant experience in providing security to a public sector enterprise. Do we have Captain Tyagi with us?
Yeah, Vishal, I am here.
Sir, you just heard Captain Sharma say that there is a big deficit. There's a big regulation deficit, and there's also a problem of quality and intake. He says that the entry level, the intake would be class 8 level personnel who are being taken in, and they do not seem to be measuring up to the higher end expectations. So what is your take on it? And how do you think, what are the key skill gaps which need to be addressed, and how can that be done?
Thanks, Vishal. In fact, I would like to play a role of Vidur to Sanjay. What Sanjay Sohi and Sanjay Sharma has said, I try to give a different perspective because I have seen what sector needs and what sector supplies. I'm talking about the entire industrial security sector, where part is divided into half, that being represented by private security industry, the service providers, and remaining half is the end user, the takers of the service. And with this role, I have that magical mirror through which I can see what the world is going to be in 2030. 2030, it requires a view of opportunities available while also recognizing the risk and the challenges. We know that if we achieve the vision put forward by global goals, our world will be a radically better place. So how do we envision world in 2030? Because if we fail in visualizing what is going to be 2030, we will also fail in predicting what would be the requirement and what would be the ways and purpose of filling the gap, service takers and service providers. There is a deficit, there is a definite gap. So let's understand what 2030 is going to be. And before forecasting, I am reminded of saying by Niels Bohr. He was very famous physicist, and he said that prediction. So organizations and individuals, as the World Economic Forum and Bill and Melinda Gates have risen to the challenges to envision the world in 2030. And common themes include increasing urbanizations, growing displacement from conflict and climate change, near universal access to the internet, and end of the internal combustion engines and less resource intensive food system. So if this is the word which is going to be, let's understand that technology is going to be a disruptor in the industry. If technology is the enabler...
How ready are the PSAs to adopt technology, to be technology enabled?
Yes. Okay. Let me put focus on that. There are going to be various technologies coming up, as today there are many technologies available, and it would be very naive and impractical to think that security technologies which are available or which would be available are going to solve all our problems. If that is the feeling, that probably we have not either understood our problems or we have not understood the technologies properly. So technologies are going to be enabler, but then the application will always remain based on human interface. The people who are trained and skilled to handle those technologies, and today and even tomorrow in the future, there's going to be big gap. Today we have security manpower. CAPSI has...
So what would your recommendation and suggestion be for General Sohi, sir, to fill this gap?
Okay. So what would be the impact on security? security manpower first, and that is the sector Jalsoi looks after. The security personnel really need to specialize. Not only they need to properly get training on basic security duties, which CAPSI puts focus, and the Private Security Agency Regulation Act also prescribes with the specific syllabus. But that is the minimum entry level. But end users like Sanjay Sharma and many of those in corporate security are going to demand security personnel specialize, not only just working and specialize in handling the technological solutions. There are security systems, there are security gadgets, and today security guards barely able to meet the essential requirement. So they would be put to use handheld metal detector and they fumble. They would be required to go through the details of door frame metal detectors and they do not know the basics. CCTV system is just not going to look at the screen. There would be CCTV auditing also. So there are system operations, CCTV auditing, intelligence collection, and there might be requirement of crime scene investigation, if not investigation, crime scene preservation. So security guards and those security guards behind them, the security agencies, they also need to create niche, the specialization. Just providing manpower, barely meeting the essential requirement, they come through the compliance screening, okay. But beyond compliance, today customers started demanding, and this sector also, as any other service sector, is going to be driven by the demand from the customer.
So Captain Tyagi is saying that the change, there's a big skill gap and the change is going to be driven by the consumer. I'm going to take this back to Captain Sharma. Captain Sharma, give us a sense, give us some real examples of what sort of technology would you expect a private security personnel to handle? What sort of technology do you expect them to handle? And what are the vulnerabilities that needs to be addressed by private security agencies? That's my question to Captain Sharma, please.
Thank you. Again, very interesting question. And see, it has to be seen in the right context. So like we have our own campus in terms of facilities. It's a mix of developer facilities and own campuses. So we have large facilities with an average size of around 20,000 employees in each campus. And most of our CCTV systems and access systems converge onto something called Security Operations Center, which is the monitoring center for all the security devices. And then, there is a global security command center. Some companies may have more than one. We have only one. This amalgamates the risk intelligence and the security monitoring devices to provide decision support during crisis or even in terms of day-to-day operative scenarios. So clearly, in terms of security manpower, I'll segregate this into two parts. One that will come from security agencies and one that will come from agencies which are not into the core business of security and more onto the technical manpower supply side. So like in our case, what we have done is we have shifted out the complete command center operator to a technical manpower company. And these people do not come from guarding agencies anymore. Clearly, because there was a huge gap in terms of the competence and the capability. And the demands on the company was very high in terms of professionalism and delivery of the right intelligence, right analysis, right operation in terms of various high-end applications. So we use close to around 20 security applications on the tech side to deliver services across multiple systems, ranging from basics as ID badge creation and printing softwares to, a guest pass system, which is the Vista system, or even, the vendor management portal and the systems around that, security incident management portals, or even the monitoring of, the critical systems like the access systems, batch programming, deprovisioning of access levels, CCTV monitoring.
So are you really looking at a highly skilled personnel instead of the class 8 intake level, which we are getting mostly from the security agencies at the
Absolutely. So that is where I am saying that the PSA, if they have to really catch the opportunity, they must upgrade their service levels with hiring of right quality of manpower and offer that service. Otherwise, if they are not early movers in this sector, slowly they will lose out on their advantage, which they have been holding, as a tradition. So risk is changing, the expectation is changing, the client demand on us is changing, and accordingly our demand on our service provider is changing. So they have to adjust, otherwise they will miss the bus. And that is happening quite frequently across mature corporations which have some security structure, some governance mechanism. Even the COVID period, the capacity to undertake virtual trainings or virtual audits or virtual compliance dashboards, that is not very much evolved across all the security companies. And they are not invested heavily on the people side or on the skill upgrade side. They are mostly invested on the recruitment side and on the business development side. So I think they must shift their focus into areas which will deliver client value, value for money that they spend, and participate in risk mitigation activities with a very, very professional foot forward. And that is clearly the ask from us. We are complementing that with the risk consulting agencies which come and do the needful. But if PSS have to take that advantage, they must sharpen up this area.
So the private security agencies need to up the game, which is what the corporate consumer is saying. And let me now take this to General Soy again. General Soy, the ask from industry, from the consumers is staggering. So give me, do you think that there is a vision of a transformation really to where the key security providers are really highly skilled and highly educated people? Is that the kind of visioning we have, General Soy?
Vishal, absolutely. Very good question. The way Captain Sanjay also brought out and he has highlighted that there is a requirement of highly trained security personnel. I would like to bring out a couple of other things also. Like if you see this, in today's environment, PSAs need to either perform or perish. The big players are coming in, the multinationals are coming in, they are already here. The more multinationals are there, the more organized players will come in. So if they don't perform, if they don't deliver, and they don't invest in manpower, training, and with the latest technology, then they're going to perish, they're going to finish. I mean, it's a simple thing as any other business establishment or any other business venture. And the next thing is that at present, this industry is at the threshold of breakout. Because the way it is all linked to the economy, it is all linked to the infrastructure growth, it is all linked to the different kind of security threats, which are growing at a phenomenal speed. It has a direct impact on the growth of the private security industry. And what Captain Sanjay had brought out, I fully agree with them. If the private security agency were not able to deliver the high-tech manpower, they had to outsource it. So now, these days, the thought is to have integrated things, security, facility management, even the high-tech things, and even the hospitality or everything combined. Because wherever you are providing these facilities, at least a lot of expenditures get cut. And the service taker also has to deal with single person, one agency only. So we need to think of that to bring different services under one umbrella, under one roof. That is also one of the thought process which is happening. And the Vision 2030 is absolutely, we are seeing the market changing. From the concrete market, we are getting into the e-commerce, we are getting into the more and more technology things that are coming in. So security agencies also need to be aware and be alive to the situation, for sure.
General, the opportunity is enormous. As you say, that the security needs are increasing by leaps and bounds. And this session is about vision for the future. And obviously, there is a lot of ground to be covered in terms of acquiring capability first before those business opportunities can be addressed. But when we are talking about big visioning, do you foresee a situation where private security agencies, highly skilled private security and competent private security agencies, could be called upon to perform the role which is now being performed by, second and third tier government agencies like the Home Guard and Civil Defense?
Absolutely, Vishal. We have had a discussion with police foundation divisions, and that is where the government is also looking at it to outsource a lot of non-essential and not so important tasks to the private security agencies and outsource it, so that their also cost of the running a big establishment is also reduced. The things are outsourced. A lot of things are happening in the West is already there. In India, we need to take that step, and probably for that, the industry also need to gear up for that, because unless we develop that kind of credibility which we need to have, so that the government can trust, yes, we give them, there would be integrity, there would be discipline, they would deliver, and there would not be any compromise in the whatever task has been given to them. Then only they will deliver, and all that need training, and more training. Frankly, that's the only thing they need to focus on that, and only 160 hours training based in Pasara is not enough. People need to think big. People need to think beyond that. They need to work on the specialization. They need to think to acquire new technology.
But when you talk about 160 hours, the requirement, what is the nature of compliance? What would be the percentage of companies which are providing 160-hour training to its personnel, sir?
In fact, I'll not be able to give any percentage as such, but yes, there are cases where fake certificates are also being given, and we need to think. That is where the CAPC and we come into play, and we keep urging the government that we need to have the compliance. We keep urging our industry players, our PSAs, that if you don't comply, then you are losing in the long run. Today, you don't deliver a quality product, your quality manpower. What Captain Sanjay Sharma said, that if he does not get quality, next time he'll look at some other agency. They will switch over to somebody else. They will be ultimately acquired by some big agency. The business will go to some bigger organized sector who is giving quality manpower. So they have to ultimately, that is where our chairman, Kuan Vikram Singh, and our team keep focusing that please ensure compliance. It is for your good. It is good for your industry only.
Captain Tyagi, it has emerged in the discussion that there is no benchmarking for the standards and there is a regulation deficit. So what in your view can be done, Captain Tyagi, to ensure that these problems are overcome, that there are some benchmark standards which are which the industry has to follow, and what sort of regulation must be a must? Captain Tyagi.
Vishal, Jan Soi has already mentioned, and I am reminded of exercise which was undertaken by Triple SDC. Probably it was much before Jan Soi joined, and national occupational standards were frozen. Today, these national occupation standards, which were formulated by Triple SDC, are now industry norm. But compliance is very poor. And when we talk about compliance and related matter, so far as training is concerned, 160 training hours are not sufficient. A man is barely able to put on his uniform properly and salute. That is the outcome of the training given to him. Ultimately, like I said, niche needs to be created. I happen to represent a forum, International Council of Industrial Security and Safety Management in India, interacts with not only our professionals, those who are actually working for security in corporate and business entities. And I also work as interface with the service providers, that is CAPC. And I know what one sector needs and how other part provides. There is deficit there also. And the security agencies today, which we refer to as PSA or PSI, PSA also need to orient to paradigm shift which is happening. More and more dependency, or rather, the application of technology is going to create opportunities which private security industry need to capitalize.
So
There is opportunity, and they must.
Captain Tyagi, is there a need for a minimum standards legislation?
See, that legislation which came, after much deliberation and much political dilly-dallying, finally it came. And fortunately, before this PASARA was actually adopted, drafting committee, I was also part of the drafting committee, and I know how government representative and MHA were very skeptical. And finally, when first version came out, it became a kind of police approach. So there is need to change here also, because it talks about only security guard, and security guard is not the only thing which security sector needs. We need, besides security guard, we need security supervisors, we need security officers and executive at various levels. And let me also share here with everyone that in ICISS we conduct online certification programs. We prepare security guards for security supervisors position, and for security supervisors, we give them online training and certification so that they are qualified for security executives job. And let me share with everyone that our candidates do not come from corporate security. Probably they think that they are already qualified enough. But our candidates come from private security agencies, those who are outsourced manpower, and they have that urge and desire to excel and go further up. So not only the security personnel in the sector feel that they should have upskilling and career progression opportunities, but in PASARA, I see a deficit that it caters only for entry-level security guard. They need to vision much beyond security guard. And here, Pepsi must also, while interacting with the government bodies, make very strong case that think about something through which a mechanism is developed. Reputed security training institutes are also established, recognized, and regularly audited, because they are the only fountainhead through which we will have quality manpower.
That's a point very well made, Captain Tyagi. I'm going to take this back to Captain Sharma for a corporate view when we are talking about big visioning. And it's really the corporate sector at the moment, and high-tech corporate sector, which is really defining the requirements and the standards, or is beginning to do so. So, wherever the stakes are very high, Captain Sharma, we see that, you look at, say, something like airport security, which demands the very gold standard of security. Or you look at the security of vital installations. Now, all these facilities are manned by government agencies, whether it be the DSC or the Territorial Army. And in the case of airport security, it is the CISF. So, can we envisage a situation where, private security, these functions could be outsourced to private security in the years to come?
It's a difficult task because the industry has to be prepared. In some of the international locations, maybe this is already happening in terms of the administrative duties, which are outsourced to private security players. But then, the quality and the upskilling is also different. So if Indian private security agencies have to contribute in this sector, first they have to demonstrate competence in this area for the government to really, evaluate this aspect. So I don't think that the PSA is currently ready for handling critical assets. Some of the administrative duties, yes, they did have some share as part of volunteers as COVID warriors to support police stations, especially during the migrant labor crisis. We also provided close to more than 100 COVID warriors to one of the state governments to support some administrative duties on migrant labor camps and all. But those are, one-off cases where the police bandwidth is choked. I'm seeing some traffic duties being outsourced to private security in some of the cities where they act as traffic marshals. But if private security has to assume a larger share of work here, they will have to be empowered also through the legislation change. Otherwise, they are only in supporting role, and truly, only complementing the police, shortages, I would say, whenever there are shortages of police. But notwithstanding that, the private security should move forward at least in terms of adoption of some industry standards, if not, if there is no minimum legislation. So there is one very beautiful standard which came out from ISO organization for private security agencies. It is ISO 18788. It came out in 2015. The act came out in 2005. 10 years later. But even in the Indian context, if you see out of some 25,000 companies which General Secretary mentioned, if you do a survey on these companies, there will not be, even a single digit in terms of adopters of this standard. So the voluntary approach to standard adoption is something which there should be a mindset change in the minds of private security agency owners. And that is where you will add value to the end user, because corporate governance is being looked at as a very, very important sustainable item. And even if you see the gender balance, private security agencies, the gender balance in the private security domain at the grassroots level is not adding much value, whereas this could be a reportable GRI index item, for top corporations. And the security organization or the security agencies truly are missing out on that opportunity. While most business leaders are talking of inclusiveness of women in these roles, there are women in foreign military and also, in commando forces outside in the private sector, outside in other geographies. But India, truly, I don't know for what good or bad reasons, they have not been able to, capture on this huge talent pool, which they should ideally capture, and drive the.
Yes, let's take this to General Soy. The gender gap, General Soy, is this something which has occupied your mind? There are so many more women in the workplace now, and from a government policy perspective, there is a major emphasis on making even the armed forces more welcoming of women and being more gender neutral forces. So what is the plan in terms of when you talk about sort of skilling and policy thoughting? Are there any thoughts on this, on making this more gender equal maybe, and also more respectable? We've never heard of the personnel being called security officers. We still call them only security guards.
Absolutely, Vishal. Very pertinent question and very, very pertinent point put across by Captain Sanjay Sharma. Because yes, almost you see the numbers wise, there are as many as men across India, and the focus of the government, focus of the corporate, and focus everywhere is there that women should also be part of the employment. And yes, and in security sector, especially if you look at it, the number of places, places where only women can handle. If you see in the mall, there have to be women guard to check the women at the airport or wherever there is a general public is there, in the hospitals, mall, where a public is there, the women guards have to be there. So that is already happening. Only thing is the numbers are yet very small. And in fact, on 17th only we had annual Security Leadership Summit, where General VK Singh also highlighted this issue, that more number of women need to be trained, they need to be inducted into the private security industry. And with the technology coming in, it is very well, like beside in some places it is must, they need to be there. And with the technology coming in, They can be in the control room. They can be in the whether it is CCTV or handling the drones or in the CI or then doing the analysis of the outputs recordings. They can very much be part of there. So yes, scope is very big. And one more thing, Vishal, I wanted to highlight is the point of the training part, because it is coming a regulation, and I would also bring out that ultimately the market will determine. The market will also determine the user, the service taker. If you say, no, I need this, the private security agency will train it. If you say, no, I don't accept this, what have you provided me? What have you given me?
So the change must be driven by the consumer. Yes, it will be.
It has to be both sides. I mean, whether the government wants to take it, the private security industry need to be empowered. They need to train so that the government can trust, the client can trust. But for that, I also wanted to bring out one more thing. As a CAPC, we came out with star rating. Star rating is there where the user can find out, okay, you are 1-star security agency, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. Like in a hotel industry, if you see you want to stay in a 5-star hotel, you want to stay in 1-star hotel, 3-star hotel, depending on your budget, depending on your need, depending on what kind of business you want to do there. So it is we are there with the star rating proposal is also there. That scheme is
what is the sort of dialogue which happens between a government mandated skill council like yours and industry bodies on basic minimum standards? Has there been enough dialogue on basic minimum standards, General?
Yes, in fact, we have been regularly in touch with the Home Ministry, which is our parent ministry. We have given proposal for the what Captain Tyagit brought out. The training institutes need to be proper. There need to be proper guidelines. That we have sent the proposal that national occupational standards, which we had formulated, which is now accepted by this. That was also made by us. And now recently, which I mentioned earlier, Rashtriya Raksha University and we have joined hands together. Again, they are looking at the outsourcing the training. They are there in Ahmedabad, this is a national level university, and the training institutes would be accredited to them, which would be of the quality. So the quality education could be there, the qualities could be ensured, and the compliances are there that yes, if you have taken a certification from this institute, that means this boy is good, any security agency can take it.
It was also pointed out that there's very poor compliance of the ISO standard. The ISO standard of 2015. Is it something which you've taken up with the industry?
In fact, yes, this is there. But when we talk of this standards, compliances, yes, it is a question which we have been taking with the, we are in talking to industry as well as with the government. We also are, our focus is on that we need to focus on the compliances part.
So I would need to ask the Master of Ceremonies if we have more time for this very engaging discussion. So would you come in and tell us if we still have more time?
We have precisely 4 minutes, sir, but I mean, of course, it's in your hands.
No, I'm truly enjoying this very engaging discussion, as I said. So let me go back again to Captain Sharma. Give us an example or a moment where you can illustrate the kind of improvement which is required in the skilling of private security agencies. This is not to sort of find fault, but in a manner of constructively suggesting a scaling up of their capabilities, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that. So my view is also not critical, while it's only to support the industry to stimulate their thinking, to reform and improve from where we are, because we are talking of Vision 2030. Now, in terms of skilling, as I said, first, I think you should change the intake pattern. Now you're also teaching security as a voluntary subject in some schools, and General Sohi would agree with that this has been used as a vocational subject. Now, when these students pass out with 4 years of security education and they become employed either after class 12th or even after doing their graduation in this domain, what is their employability? Ultimately in the private security agencies is a huge question mark. What type of careers they should aspire for, as against someone who is on a mass recruitment drive by PSA and has class 8 as the intake value. And then you have a problem of lateral hire coming from other agencies with some experience and getting fitted into the same band as a private security guard, because the salary levels in most contracts across the business enterprises in India are much flat like a government contract. Like everybody gets the same salary whether you have 1 year experience or 3 year experience or 5 year experience in a certain category. So the way the guards are positioned in terms of experience to capability metrics, the private security agency must reform their models in terms of how they position this to the end user and drive value for everybody in the value chain. So that's one big change in shift, which can also have a direct connection to the competence and the skill certification. So if we are talking of skill certification, there is certainly a gap on the tech side. So system integrators, who will skill them is still unclear, which is going to play a very big role in days to come as you adopt technology. And when PSAs offer a range of service that we will deploy systems and CCTVs and access come to us as a one-stop shop, we must also understand what is their capability on system integrators and how are they being trained, and whether there is a skill certification on this category of manpower or even maintenance engineers who perform your AMC task on security systems. What is their skilling? So maybe there is a food for thought before the skill council to integrate this line of people also into the physical security skilling at some stage, and really look at a higher degree of certification for them, because they may be coming from an ITI background or something, and equate them at par. And then of course is the voluntary adoption of standards, as I said. So a comparison around global standards, what is the end user ask? So when you develop standards, I had a look at this qualification pack which was created for variety of job roles in the skill council, starting from security guard to a CCTV operator to a supervisor and to an assignment manager. But the ask on the guard is huge with a 8th class qualification. So how much is realistic? And on one side, we are not able to deliver a basic induction training of 20 days, which is prescribed by law to be done over 160 hours. We are falling short there. And so it's really puts a big question mark. How will a guard invest his time on a 30-day skill program if he is currently employed? So those are challenges before the skill council and the industry organization, which must be addressed with a very, very objective view before the government. And they must form committees to really debate this and also take end user participation if required, because there is clearly a huge gap between expectation versus delivery. And this must be bridged. If skill council has to play a role here, or industry association has to play a role here, it has to be a role of participation and improvement.
So the gap needs, yes. So the gap needs to be bridged, and this is great food for thought indeed for for the decision makers. And coming from Captain Sharma, who represents a global company where they would have experience of private security agencies, they have engaged overseas also, so they're very well placed to be seeking.
Yeah, also I just want to add one more aspect. The role of a corporate CSO is very wide. It is those days are over when a security manager in an organization was mostly seen as a manager of guarding services, and delivering security operations of a guard company. Now, guard company operation constitute a very, very small proportion of security manager role. Because he has to look at risk, he has to look at intelligence, forecasting tools, he has to look at crisis management, business continuity, training. I mean, his range is way ahead, and also audits and client satisfaction. So PSA must understand how they will ease up the burden on the CSO with some value-added service, because if his energies are sucked back into guard force management, and which is not offered as a very standard service, and is very selective to adjust to a demand made by the end user, the trust on PSA is going to shrink by the day. So they must adjust to the reality and offer more value.
That's a point very well made, and as you said, great food for thought. So I'm going to wind up this discussion. We've hit our time. In fact, we are 3 minutes beyond our time. And this very eminent panel pointed out that there needs to be industry standards or benchmarks. Skill gaps need to be filled up, and they really need to be looking at the future and investing in people. So I'm going to thank this very eminent panel again. Major General Soi, Captain Tyagi, Captain Sharma, thank you very much for being with us and for making this a very engaging discussion. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thapar, for moderating this session. And of course, a big thank you to all our esteemed panelists. So we've discussed the challenges, we've discussed the solutions, we are also discussing the future. And now that we're discussing the future, we have to talk about transformation. Moving towards our next session on transforming from traditional to man-tech enabled security. Again, a keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming on screen Major Manjeet Rajayan, Chairman, Peregrine Guarding. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Aditya. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
And can you see me?
We can very much. We can hear you, we can see you.
Great.
Mr. Batra says we can.
If Mr. Batra can see me, then everybody can see me. All right. So first of all, it is genuinely my proud privilege to be able to address this very august gathering at this prestigious event, the 2021 Outstanding Security Performance Awards. Personally, I'm always very fond of events held by Business World because they're very informative, like the previous session was, which I was listening to. They're very professionally managed and very enlightening. So thank you very much, Dr. Batra. Special thanks to you, Editor-in-Chief of Business World, for inviting me to this event, which is hosted by Business World and CAPSI. Before we go forward on my subject, which is how information technology is transforming traditional security to man-tech, and I would seek Dr. Batra's permission if I can change that word man-tech. I find it too cliched and too cold, to something which is more related to human beings. So let's try to call it human intelligence and technology. So human IT for better understanding. But a couple of facts of this sector before we go forward. This sector, as I checked this morning, employs over 1 crore, which is a little more than the Indian Army, Police, Navy, Air Force, all put together. The private security industry, and why do we do this? Because the public to police ratio in this country is very, very low. As per MHA, ideally, what is the authorized trend should be 195 policemen for every 100,000 people. But we currently, due to shortages, are 156 personnel for every 100,000 people. It's really low. Therefore, we need private security industry. In 2000, financially, this industry was worth 99,000 crores, and by 2022, it is predicted to reach 1.5 lakh crores, which is equal to 23 billion US dollars, which is a very, very big figure. In 2013, this industry was about 30% organized. Now we are 50% organized, and we are moving very quickly towards being organized, which is a great thing. Now, security typically is synonymous with standard things, metal detectors, security guards, patrolling. In fact, if I was speaking to you 20 years back, I would have said it's synonymous with a Gurkha at the gate with a baton. But of course, we've changed from then. But what we are not appreciating is that it's now evolved beyond what we think about guards and metal detectors, etc. It is there to support the business for loss prevention. beyond physical guarding. It is enforcing safety standards in organizations and tracking local and geopolitical events to do preventive and predictive security. This transformation has happened due to what we can call constructive enablement through power of technology. Now we all talk about technology. We just heard the previous session. There's a whole talk about technology, but from the perspective of security, we need to bring it into a bracket. Traditionally, this industry was fragmented, unorganized, ill-trained. There were 15,000 security companies across the country, licensed and unlicensed, providing this 1 crore people to our clients. That is not possible today. It is going to change. The industry has evolved. And why? Very simple logic. This basic thing, wages. In the last 10 years, in most states, the minimum wages or the wages for a guard have gone up by, in some cases, 140%. No company can justify that kind of a spend without any change. If I'm paying 10 rupees for a shirt today and 20 rupees for it 10 years from now, I need to know what else am I getting. Has technology moved? Am I getting a better shirt? Will the button not come off? Something different. But in our industry, that is not possible. You still provided security guard. And like Captain Sanjay Sharma said a few minutes back, it's why should I pay more when I'm getting the same? Now, in this industry now needs to move from what I called input-based security to output-based security. Everybody has always seen security as a cost. It needs to be seen as an input. It needs to show and be able to show in measurable terms what it delivers. And that is possible through technology. In my company, Peregrine, we have come up with a catchword called BPRO, Business Process Reengineering Operations. Basically, re-engineer what the guy is doing operationally on site, using technology to deliver better quality, measurable gains through how much theft is controlled, how much pilferage is prevented. And I'm very proud to say, using this BPRO, we have been able to, in a FMCG company, reduce the pilferage by 15%. That's measurable. The client now understands that his security is not just a cost, it brings him benefits. Now, return on investment. Everybody talks of ROI. Cost to, how is the cost driven? Clients need to, years back, you would have seen that when every security head, every finance head, every commercial head, procurement head comes under pressure, what does he do? He either reduces security guard or reduces the management fees. That's the only thing you can do, because everything is etched in stone by the government. Everything else is within the law. But how much of the management fee can you reduce? How many people can you reduce? I think personally, we really hit the rock bottom. Clients are giving out contracts at 3%, and there are 10 companies standing in line to gain them. Now, how do you now manage it? Because beyond that, you can't go. It will become counterproductive. You'll actually be paying money from our pocket to service our clients. In Peregrine, we started reducing the downtime and maximizing production. For example, in a heavy industry, in a heavy industry, we reduce the downtime. In a car manufacturing company, a major global giant, we reduce the accidents that used to happen inside the production. All this only using technology. I will give you a very simple example. In a client that we service overseas, it's a big market that we service, which is around a canal system. Over there, in addition to the security doing all its standard job of securing the property, ensuring there are no miscreants, and looking after issues about theft, etc., we are also measuring, through using technology, footfalls, demography, age, areas where more people are congregating, even down to the fact that we can tell you how many shopping bags of a certain shop went out of that market on a particular day. Now, COVID has acted as a tech catalyst, essentially. COVID, of course, has brought major misery to the entire world. There has been pain, there has been deaths, losses, there is unemployment, and of course, we now about to, I don't know what's going to happen. Fingers crossed, third wave. But for this industry, there were a couple of good things also that happened. One, it brought recognition to the industry. Two, it made us what we love to call these days COVID warriors. We were the people, our guards were the people standing still over there when everybody else had gone home. This recognition and being seen as people who would perform in these extreme emergencies has moved towards technology. How did it do that? Basically, and we all know it, technology was moving. It was moving into every part of our life. I'm sure you've all heard the story that Amazon has a store in Seattle where there's not a single human being. You can just pick up something. It automatically deducts the money from your card. All this would have happened in every industry, but it would probably happen in 5 years. Due to the catalysm of COVID, it is happening very fast. In the last 1 year, we've seen a major change. Businesses do not have the luxury or the option. Tech transformation is something that they will do. Of course, clients say, give us this, give us that, but don't charge us more money. This will cost money, and the clients fortunately know. But then there is measurable benefit that the clients get out of it. Now, CCTV as an enabler. Now, the old humble CCTV, which has always been there, we've seen it hanging everywhere. Of course, it has developed new fans. It can now turn around like a circus gymnast. It can look anywhere. It can zoom in. A lot of nice things it can do. But most importantly, its essential role historically always has been post-mortem. After an event has happened, the footage from the CCTV is used for post-event investigation. It did not stop events from happening. I'm sure you would all remember that incident of that ATM in Bangalore, where a lady went into an ATM room, somebody followed her, showed her a knife. I think he injured her also, if I'm not wrong, made her draw some money. And later on, of course, through the CCTV footage, that man was caught, etc. But suppose, think about it, if that little ATM cabin had a CCTV connected to a command center, two-way communication, and the moment a second person entered that cabin, alarm goes off to say, why are there two people in that command center, in that ATM room? And in the through the two-way communication, somebody from the command center could have said, we have seen you, we have got you, we've informed the police is on the way, please desist from doing what you're doing. My bet is he would have desisted. That is how we need to use technology proactively. And of course, there are things like machine learning. It's continuously improving. Artificial intelligence. It has enabled CCTV to proactively empower security personnel to detect real time and deter. In Peregrine, we have a sister concern called Soteria, which is a command center. And through that, we monitor without human intervention, many locations. We all know it that a person sitting in front of 10 screens when you have a command anywhere uses intelligence in approximately 16 minutes. Believe me, it is true. I lost in 9. After that, he's as good as a piece of furniture in that room. But when it is a system, artificial intelligence, in that case, when the incident happens, when a rule is breached, when something that was not supposed to happen happens, alarm goes off and action can be taken.
So I'm going to go to them.
Apologies. Now, productivity tracking and output focus through mobility solutions. Security guards of the future will be measured not by the number of hours they do duty, but by the productivity. I'm sure all of you who have visited overseas must have seen there is a guy always walking around putting parking tickets on cars. He's not paid salary, or maybe he's paid a small salary for that, but his major income comes from his law enforcement or the work that he does. Therefore, they are so proactive. So security guard similarly of the future will be measured on the productivity and the output that he brings. security companies will not be security companies. They'll be tech companies doing security. And this will actually benefit everybody. That'll come to later. But the security guard, let's say hypothetically, if he's monitored through his mobile device, if he's sitting in a place, he's not moved, alarm goes to his phone to tell him, get up, you've not moved for 10 minutes, go and do your patrol. If he doesn't move, alarm goes to his boss, who's supposed to take proactive steps. It will become so much easier to monitor people rather than sending a supervisor everywhere. And this will be all real-time basis. In Peregrine, we tried out a mobility solution which has become highly successful. We are able to deliver 20% faster response. How? We geo-mapped all our client site. We mapped our person who's our field operative on the road. We know how much time he spends on the road, how many kilometers he's driven, how many sites has he visited, how much time he spent on the sites. And in fact, when he goes to a client site, he gets a message on his phone to tell him, this client owes us X amount of money, you can go and talk to them. It also helps in collection, which is most important to all of us. So this is a rapid transformation happening. And the last part is drones, the future. That's the new buzzword. Now, typically, drones are right now, maximum are being experimented, tried with by logistic companies for last mile delivery. And in India, for law enforcement, the only time they were used were in 2000 Commonwealth Games, where they were extensively used. However, not many people would know that just recently, I think 3 months back, the entire Aravalli region was mapped in less than 5 days' time using drones, something that would have taken months to do otherwise. So drones are the future. They've evolved. Security companies need to evolve to use drones. It is a great surveillance tool. It will reduce CCTV usage, you reduce usage of patrolling. I am a great believer of drones. I set up a drone training institute about 2 years back. We have the capability of training 1,000 drone pilots and licensing them, and we have the authority from the aviation ministry. First batch was passed out last year. I think there is a huge future for drones. So the key takeaways from my very simple talk is, number one, security will move from input to output based. One size will not fit all, and I'm sure we can all agree on that. In this particular case, everywhere we hear technology is a disruptor, it's a disruptor. This is probably one case where technology is not a disruptor, it is very constructive. The benefits will go to the clients because they will be able to save money and have better quality of security. It will go to companies because we'll have to stop fighting over 1 or 2, 3, 4% margins, and to the security personnel because they'll be better trained, better qualified, therefore better paid. The role of the security guard will change completely. He'll be better trained, better paid, upgradation of his skill, tech enabled. And I dare say, gentlemen, and I'm a great believer in this, that India may well become a world leader in this. So in the end, human IT security is what is going to be the future, and it's going to happen very fast. Thank you very much once again, Business World, for inviting me. It has genuinely been a privilege.
Thank you so much, Major Manjeet Rajayan. You were listening to a talk by a pioneer. For all the audiences that have tuned in, Major Manjeet Rajayan is the founder and global chairman of the Kinon Group. Then they operate in all facets of the global outsourced services domain, of which security is security and guarding is a large part, but it involves risk management, which may lead to assessment of electronic risk. We live in a digital economy, in a digital era, so we are connected, and connected devices bring their own risks in terms of e-risks. But he talked about how drones can really make sure that we are able to do surveillance or mapping in a very fast way, and hopefully in a very economic way, much more economic way and more efficient. I have only 2 questions for you, Mr. Rajayan. You alluded to some of the directional changes that are happening. You said we are moving from inputs to outcomes. You said output, but outcomes are very important. Now, when you deal with facility heads, when I say you, I mean your teams, organization. Now, what is the change in their mindset that you see has happened over the last 20 odd months post-corona?
Anuragji, it's of course, I mean, I'm going to call you Anuragji because you're much more educated than me, although I think very surely I'm elder to you.
Nobody would believe that. Both of them that are more educated than you and that you're elder to me. You look younger, but yes, I'm younger to you. I told you when I was.
I know we discussed it once.
You're very kind.
So the clients, I think, the change has been, initial change was, let's wait and watch. I think that was the first 8-9 months. After that, what can you give us better than what you did earlier? That was the second one. Then the third one came where I think the realization has hit that that COVID is here to stay. You will have waves, maybe another one, maybe. So we have to get ready for it. And now when you go to a client and tell him about the use of technology, the input versus output model that I just mentioned, it is actually clicking because it's become a buzzword. Everybody wants to look at the bottom line. It's not about future building the company for 10 years hence. Everybody's about, my this quarter results or my this annual results. So when you go and tell them, look, I'm going to deliver you X amount of savings through doing A, B, C, they are very, very proactively listening. I personally have met at least 5 clients, both in India and overseas. I'm yet to find one CFO who has said no to this proposal.
Interesting. So that mindset change has happened. But also let me ask you a numerical question. Let's say if pre-corona, 100 rupees was being spent in facilities management, security, guarding, and let's say technology included, which may include, looking at what the cyber risks are, doing a risk management assessment. Has the budgets been redeployed to look at digital assets and digital footprints and digital risks in a big way? Has that shift happened? Suppose it was 20, I don't know the exact, but it would be less than 20, I'm 100% sure. Has that moved to 30, 40, or is it likely to move to a substantial number?
Yeah, Rajji, a very, very interesting question, because you are absolutely right. It was much less than 20 also. Typically, if you went to a client, a large client, and said, I'm going to put CCTV systems, I'm going to use artificial intelligence to monitor your site, the guy would say, I have no money, you put your systems and I will pay you as we use. And which meant we had a major CapEx outlay, which was not possible for most companies. Today, the client is willing to spend money. But I would say we are somewhere around the 30% range, coming up from the 15% range. So that if I look at it positively, it's 100% increase in what had happened earlier. But really speaking, on the larger scale of things, it is still 30%. But my belief is, give it another year, and this 30% may very well go to 50%.
Absolutely.
I think more than anything else, it will be driven by, first thing, of course, COVID. And the second is the wage increase. I mean, today, minimum wages went up from 10,000 to 24,000 in certain states. You can't take up your budget to 24,000 overnight when you have 100 people or 200 people deployed over there.
So you will increasingly deploy technology.
Exactly. Choice nahi hai.
Absolutely. It's a business imperative, as we would say. My last question before I let you go. Though you alluded to some of the directional changes happening, the trends, you talked about outcomes, you talked about drones, you talked about deployment in digital infrastructure to mitigate the cost of capital, manpower that has gone up. Suddenly, if you had to make 2 or 3 predictions for the future, if I talk to you in 2 months, 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, what would you have seen changing in the next 3 to 6 months? I'm not talking a very long term. I'm talking next 3 to 6 months.
I would actually hedge my bets on 2 things. If the third wave comes, I would see a major change happening, because then people would believe it is happening again and again. If there is no third wave, it may be a little slow. But in both eventualities, the following things will happen. Number one, the spend on technology will keep ramping up. It may not go from 30 to 50% in the next 6 months, but it'll go from 30 to maybe 32%, 34%, 35%. And more clients will start talking about it and understanding and accepting it. One. Two, the big thing that change that I feel will happen is the movement from this standard model of give me 100 guards and that is all I need, and I'll tell you how many people I need. The movement from that to saying this is the job that needs to be done. You decide how much people you want to put and how much technology you want to put. I have this budget, please fit it in this budget, or you tell me what is the ideal budget for this level of security. So from counting people to just the results.
Clearly, the move to technology and investments in technology, both infrastructure as well as services, looking at software issues that can lead to data breaches, that can lead to other cyber leaks, can be mitigated by use of technology. Also, as the cost of manpower goes up, technology deployment will get hastened. As you rightly talk about, even if there is no third wave, this acceleration will continue. Of course, with the third wave, the human contact will need to be minimized because we as humans will be prepared for much more such outcomes, if it happens again. And I hope that's not the case. And if you look at the data in South Africa, the hospitalization has come down. So the severity of Omicron is actually not that severe. But at the same time, countries like UK, Netherlands, they have really imposed lockdown because for some of the populations, aging populations, even with that severity, it can cause fatality. And the vaccination percentages are low. Clearly, the professional outsourced services industry is going through throes of change. It is mirrored both by the what's happening in the overall society and the economy. And one thing I will tell you, Major Manjeet Rajanji, that while we've talked about hybrid in retailing, the physical footfalls in the US have been record. If you look at the Walmart, so the physical security aspect, in spite of e-commerce, e-tailing, I don't think that's going away. Also, if you look at the travel data in India of the last 60 days, the numbers have started to come back. So if there's no third wave, the economic activity and hence the demand for professional outsourced services will go back to peak levels or possibly may surpass that. So that's my sense, if there is no third wave. That is the only rider. And we are hoping and that doesn't happen. Thank you for talking to BW Security World, BW Police World, BW Business World. We are delighted to partner with you on the second edition of OSPAs. And we look forward to seeing you at the awards in some time from now. That was Major Manjeet Rajan, the founder, chairman of Tenon Group. Thank you so much. And back to you, Aditya.
Thank you, Dr. Batra.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Major. And thank you, Dr. Batra, for joining in the very end. So, as Sir has mentioned that transformation, to me, it felt more like possibilities. There's a lot that has happened and a lot that will happen, of course, fingers crossed, if that, lots of possibilities. But yes, we are on the right path of using technology, at least for this sector, as Major mentioned. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving towards the next panel discussion. I'm sorry for that. On building and managing security forces in India, moving blue-collared to blue uniforms. And ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming our panelists for this session. Ms. Rekha Gairola, Regional Security Advisor, Aviation and Aerospace Industry. Colonel Harjinder Singh, Head of Training, Raxa Security Services. Paul Debsey, Regional VP, ISIS International, and the moderator, Dr. Rajiv Mathur, Regional Advisor, Asia, OSPA. Sir.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you for the introduction. We have my colleagues. Okay, Colonel Harjinder is there. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. After so many power-packed panel discussion, fireside chat, where we have discussed and spoken about the security and the future of the security. We have subject to speak, building and managing security forces in India, moving blue collar to blue uniforms. And I have my colleagues here, Colonel Harjinder from Raksha Security Services. He is from the training perspective of a guarding company, and we have Rekha Gairola, who is managing the security of a very large corporate Boeing, and of course Major Paul Devasi. He also represents ACES as well as the head of security at Oyo Rooms. We have just we have just heard General Sanjay Soi talking about the CAPSI inaugural CAPSI annual seminar, and we had General VK Singh addressing at the inaugural session. He made three very valid and very important points about the private security. He said that security forces are going to grow. The second point, he said that security would need more and more technology. And third, he said that security would need training and upskilling. Having said so, we have realized, we have learned, and we have seen that manned guarding or private security industry has regained a long due respect that it has, and the scope of security service has gone much beyond what it used to be, before the pandemic. Having said so, I would like to invite, first of all, Rekha for her opening remarks and talking about how do a corporate would contribute in building and managing security forces in India. And of course, you can give examples of your offices, your organization, which is across the globe. And moving blue collared into a blue uniform, we already understand that a security, a CSO or a security head has a permanent place in the boardroom now, after what we have seen in last 20 months. Rekha, your opening remarks, please.
Hi, Rajiv. Thank you for inviting me to talk on such an interesting topic. And hello, everyone. I'm hoping that all of you can hear me now. Ever since we moved into pandemic and with this virtual thing, I think this is going to be my opening. You can say prayer. Hope you can hear me. All right. So it's so unfortunate. I mean, if you ask me, Rajiv, that we are quoting pandemic, COVID, that it took COVID to let the C-suite and the boards to realize the importance of security, right? But that's the fact. That's the truth. But I'll talk about it, and I think I have quite a few minutes, so I can just talk about it, and then I'll try to sum it up in such a fashion that I'm able to convey what I'm trying to convey here. So when we talk about security today, Rajiv, it's not a small topic or a subject. It's a very vast subject. So, and today's agenda again is something. If we start talking about the aspects and different parameters, believe you me, one day is not enough. So, security evolution, when we talk about it, evolution from the beginning, the reason, why we started talking, and I'm talking about globally here, right? From physical security, and then, requirement, and then close perimeters, and then we needed guards at that point in time. And then slowly and gradually requirements, got changed. There was more in less kind of thing, started seeping into corporates, and that applies to each and every function, starting from finance, or let's say business, and then eventually to security as well. And if you talk about opportunities, there are a lot of opportunities there. But the question is that, are we ready to, grasp the opportunity? And what opportunity I'm talking about here is that this transition, from physical security and the physical aspects of security to now, we're talking about technology. I've just heard Major Manjeet Rijan talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we are now talking about technology, the next era, and the future generation also, and also forth. But I'll just talk about 2-3 points that I can cover. Otherwise, like I said, there's so many things that we can actually cover. The most important thing now, when you say, from blue collar to now the whole different transition. The need of the hour, I think, is if we are really planning for that future, is to break that stereotype. We have that stereotype within the industry. And when I talk about stereotype, there is no one kind of stereotype. There are many stereotypings. For example, and this is not the exclusive list, there are many, but these are very common. We find it everywhere, even in the resumes, right? One is that of ex-servicemen or ex-military, right? That a security personnel should be ex-serviceman, he should be ex-military. And then, the very stereotype that I just mentioned, he, right? We talk about men in security. So now we have women in security. I'm so proud to say that we have so many women who are coming forward and, who have actually carved their own niche in security. But then is that all that we are looking at? No. I mean, there is more that needs to be done. We have different, panels and the forums such as Women in Security. I think there's so many which are really doing amazing work. And then third one is that it is predominantly about the man-guard security or the physical security, right? Now, this is not the thing anymore. And you rightly said, COVID has changed. Now, if you ask me if COVID has changed, I won't say COVID has changed. I think COVID has just helped us to really realize that, security is far more than, what we normally talk about. Today, I think corporates are looking at security professionals who can really cover information security. So we call it InfoSec. They're looking for professionals, who can, so investigation for most of the corporates, they, sometimes add investigation into security and sometimes they add into HR. But now it's about technology, the technical investigations, right? So cybersecurity or the forensic security. And then business continuity. I mean, these are subjects for which you really need that kind of skill set. Supply chain security. We saw the importance of supply chain during the pandemic, didn't we? And for that, you need to have certain skill set, understanding of geographies, the topographies, and, connection, the connectivity and the logistics. It basically covers a lot, right? And of course, our bread and butter, which is, crisis and risk management. Now, what corporates are looking at, many, and if not all, I'm telling you, next 10 years, you would, in 10 again, I mean, I think I'm going too far. In next 5 years, you would see corporates in India, globally, it has started happening. They are going to combine all these verticals of security into one. And they are going to say, okay, fine, so this is security. And for me, it is not just physical security. You are the CSO. You need to see how are you going to build your team. And I want all the answers under one roof. So one-stop shop, right? So like I said, I mean, it's a vast subject. I can take whole day to talk about it. So like my initial question was that, are we ready with the right skill set? So I think what is important is, breaking these stereotypes is so very important. Otherwise, you are not going to attract, train, and get right people. If we start talking about, and with due respect, I'm not saying that, those who are ex-military or ex-servicemen, they are not fit to be for this job. No, that's not what I'm saying. Or I'm not saying that, women in security, we really need, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have the base. All we need to do is that we need to, just upskill ourselves. It's the time of, like we're talking about technology every time, how we can actually club these two things together and really focus on what is the need of our, right? And then just, sell the best package to the corporates. And like I said, there is the opportunity there. All we need to figure out, are we ready with the right skill set and right people who can actually say that, hey, look, you know what, I've done information security and I'm an ex-military man, right? Or I'm a woman professional, but you know what, my niche area is, let's say, cybersecurity or supply chain security. So, like I said, to sum it up, the thing is that we need to find a right balance. We just cannot say that, I have done certain things and, physical guarding and the basic things that I have been doing for this far is sufficient. The time is there to start upskilling ourselves, understand the need, and then just go for it. And literally sky's the limit then. Yeah, back to you, Reggie.
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you. Very wonderfully, you said that we need to break the stereotype, and you also said that we need to upscale the people who are doing the security. It is not about the man guarding; it's also about technology. And we just heard Major Manjit Raja in saying that it's not going to be security and technology; it's going to be the technology company looking after the security going forward. So wonderful. Moving on to Major Paul Devasi, just to let you know, Rekha, that there are two ex-military people in this forum, is in this panel as well. So, so Major, he is not written Major, so it's important for me to let everyone know that we are talking to Major Paul. Paul, so what are your thoughts? You have a responsibility of managing multiple sites, and some of them are actually outsourced. So how do you think that manpower that you required before pandemic and now what has changed for you, Paul?
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. It gives me great pleasure that you have thought me worthy to be on this panel. And first of all, after listening to Manjit, and then after that, Rekha holding forth, well, obviously it is now, I got big shoes to fill. So first of all, obviously, so you know what, Rekha, what he said about the stereotypes is very correct. In fact, a lot of my friends from military who said that, should I join security? I said, no, don't. It is a skill and it is an aptitude. Either you have it or you develop it. Don't just think that just because you are in the army or you are doing this, you can do it. No, you cannot. I will personally not hire a lot of people whom I know just because they are from the army. They don't have that. So that is about stereotypes. So, okay. So, you know what, couple of things when I was looking at this entire industry of ours, which we're working, and like Rajiv said that this entire COVID has really been a wake-up call to us. And we have, to quote, to paraphrase Rekha, we have realized that security is important. And at times, I also have to put my hand on my heart and say that I, being part of this industry, I am also at fault that it took a COVID for us to make us realize the importance of security. So that is, I put my hand up. So this industry of ours is employing around 8.9 million people. It's not a joke. It's a significant amount of revenue generator for a lot of people. It is supporting livelihoods, families, and everything. And conservatively, this entire market is valued around 18.2 billion US dollars. So that is something which is again significant. Like Rekha said, what she's saying is correct. Man guarding part forms around 75 to 80% of the entire private security industry. And the unfortunate part is that in spite of this having 8.9 million people and still growing, as per a couple of surveys, we found that only 10% of the entire industry were organized. They are still disorganized or unorganized, or a whole lot of stuff is happening. Then, so thankfully into this mess, we had PASARA, which came into being. So PASARA has been a game changer. It has not changed the game, but I do see that it's becoming a catalyst for people to change. At least people have started saying that the guards must have certain amount of training. The quality of training, well, you know what, we have got to, it's us as professionals have got to demand that from the vendors. If we don't demand a certain upgradation in their knowledge skills or the skill levels, we will not get that. Let's be very, very, what should I say, clear on that. And the next thing is that, so all of us know in India that the security guards are deployed in a whole lot of places. But when we compare ourselves to the world, what are they also doing? So we find that in abroad, the private security agencies are involved in guarding the periphery of prisons, transportation of prisoners, then at times senior citizen protective security services, then surveillance and control rooms. So, and assisting. So when these first three sentences are heard, typically a lot of people will say, oh, you know what, we are going to deprive policemen of the jobs. So I said, no, it's not that. We are, as it is in India, policeman to public ratio is very skewed. We are in a very bad shape. So by doing that, by using the private security agents, security personnel in these places, we want to free up valuable police manpower to do actual policing on the ground. So that is the way that we are supposed to look at that. Not saying that, you know what, you're going to deprive them of their work and they have to do something else. So this is something that this can be done by our the private security industry. Then another thing is that in a lot of places, especially abroad, during crisis situations, the police or the government enlists the services of the private security agencies. So that is something which has not been done. It's been done in a very, very stopgap or in very, very, what should I say, tactical way, not in a very process-oriented way. I may be wrong, but yes, this is what my feeling is. Then again, for there are some areas wherein India has made advances, like for example, managing of events and festivals, where again police is deployed in in huge numbers, so they can be freed up. So these are some places where we need to start thinking of. And for me, one of the biggest things about going back to stereotypes, I was reading somewhere that in the West, they don't use the term security guards anymore. They have started using the word security officers. The mere use of the term from guards to officers, the way you talk to them, who's that? I think William Shakespeare said that Rose can be called by anything, but no, I don't agree to that. If you're called a security guard, you're treated differently. And if you're called a security officer, you're treated differently. But so these are some things that come to my mind. But overall, we must also remember that what is the amount of training that has been imparted to them. So I know certain, I've had the pleasure of working with certain organizations who have insisted and they've paid for and they've demanded and they've got excellent security personnel who are deployed on the ground or in the offices. And these guys were worth their weight in gold, the way they used to, their soft skills, the way they used to conduct themselves, the way they used to act during crisis events. But yes, unfortunately, to put it in a very nice way, India or Indians' risk appetite is very high. So we believe in divine intervention and all that. So a lot of times, unfortunately, again, this is a failure of people like us, that people tend to look at the minimum wages security guard or the minimum wages person. So I keep telling persons that if you are going to expect that you're going to have a minimum wages security person and he's going to act like a mixture of James Bond, John Rambo, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean, I think you are expecting a bit too much. So there's a whole lot of work to be done, and it's a very bright field. There's a whole lot of automation which can be done, a whole lot of technological empowerment which can be done, places that has to be done. So that has to be driven by persons like us in, what should I say, in partnership with the security agency. So this is something that we have got to start. It has started happening, but we have got to start looking at the security service providers or the persons from where we are getting these security guards as a partner to us, and we're going to start treating them like a partner, and we're going to start sitting with them and start developing them, and how things can be used, how Manjit Rajan said, the humble CCTV can be used. What are the uses of it? Whole lot of time we just I keep telling my friends that if I take a Ferrari's engine and fit it into a Maruti 800, apologies to Maruti Suzuki, if I fit it into a Maruti 800, will it work? No, it will not. The engine itself does not do the job. You got to have the aerodynamics, you got to have the braking power, you got to have other stuff. So it has to be the system has to be changed. The system has to be changed and upgraded. So these are some thoughts, Rajiv. Back to you.
Thank you, Paul, for a very insightful deliberation on the subject. And I think coming to Colonel Harjinder Singh, the most difficult task in front of you, Colonel Saab, is that there is a lot of expectations. The pandemic has anyways changed the scope of work of a security guard. We are already hearing about a lot of technology that he has to learn. The scope has gone beyond so many things that he does. We have people like Captain Sanjay Sharma, who is talking about the expectation that he has from a security guard. Paul just defined an expectation. We are also talking about the security guards replacing police and paramilitary roles at airports, etc., etc. So, what is from your point of view, Colonel Saab, is the future? I mean, are we actually looking moving blue collared profession to a blue uniform? Are we thinking that he would become like Paul is saying, he would become a James Bond or Schwarzenegger in the coming times? Colonel Saab, you're on mute, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Thanks, Rajiv, and of course, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. And of course, thanks a lot for inviting me on this panel. It's been a great learning. Whatever I haven't been able to attend the whole session, but definitely what Rekha and Paul have brought up. Wonderful insights into what is happening in the security industry, what is happening to the, I would say, the personnel, and how and which direction they are moving in. Basically, as I see it, and I keep telling all my, I'm in this training establishment, and I tell my people, there's a very specific role, you could say, which is cut out for the private security industry. We look at the military, the Army, Air Force, Navy. They are protecting our borders. They are protecting us from the external, you could say, the external enemy, external threats. The police and the paramilitary mainly looking after the internal threats, be it a law enforcement, be it any other internal threats that come up. But the private security industry, what they are doing, they're literally and actually the third pillar of security within the country. They are protecting the economic might of the country. And this is what I tell my boys who are passing out from my academy. And I tell them, look, you are no less, you are as important to the system as anybody else, be it the army, be it the police, because a lot of them have tried for the army, have tried for the police, but haven't been successful. You speak to them, they tell you, oh, I could not, compete in the run, or I couldn't come in the the numbers which were finally taken as selected. So the economic might, and that actually is the growth engine for the country. If they are providing the security, and as we've seen, they've been doing a damn good job of it. It is only because they have the firstly the role which is defined to protect them, to protect the industry, and thereafter the capabilities which they have acquired, which they have been skilled with, and now on the job performing the duties. Now all that combines and giving the industry the I would say the foundation to look after the business, to take that forward, and sure of themselves that, okay, the security is there, they will look after. And this came out so clearly during the pandemic. So mainly it's the third pillar, as I see, for the country's security and the economic security. mainly. Now, when we look at them as, from blue collar going to the blue uniforms, very, very pertinent example is, like Rajiv was saying, that we can, take examples of our company. I'll take my company. We are Raksa, and we are there at the airport, Delhi airport. Everybody's gone through Delhi airport. We are managing the complete landside security of the airport. And today only we were building up on our website, and we were coming out with figures that how many thousands of people and thousands of vehicles are using the ramps, both at the at the departure or at the arrival, and how seamlessly they are managing it. And earlier, if you go back into time and go back when we used to have Delhi Airport only Terminal 1, which was under the Airport Authority of India. And we used to have those police guys, with those vans and those tow trucks, trying to push these cars forward. Now see how the whole system has evolved. The complete thing which was earlier done by the policemen is now being done by private security, and doing a damn good job of it. So that is where the blue collar has moved out to the blue uniforms. Okay, we have our own specific colors, but definitely, as it signifies, we are doing that. It's not only at the airports, we are doing a lot of other things, be it at the traffic management. I'm sure a lot of you have been to Gurgaon, and you would have seen Cyber City being manned by the security people, security guards of whichever company is there. I can offhand say SIS has been managing a lot of security on the traffic, intersections. So going forward, going and saying that it is moving into blue color, yeah, I would go maybe a step further and say, yes, we have moved in and we are enlarging the scope. So that is a little bit on what we have done and are in the process of doing. Another thing I would like to mention here regarding the private security person in the businesses, wherever we are. When we enter, we are greeted by a guard, and the guard is he's either checking that we have the right authorization to enter. And any type of like even Paul brought out and Rekha brought out, any type of crisis we come across, anything we immediately look for the security guy to help us, be it a small fire coming up in the premises, or be it a medical emergency. We know they are the guys who have been trained to take that on. So that is another, you could say, it's become something like foundation where we always fall back on and say, yes, if the security is there, we are safe. So that is again a place where from that humble guard, where he used to just be manning a gate or something, he is now becoming a part of the system. He's becoming a part of the company to provide services which could actually mean life and death at the site. So that is a very important aspect which has come in. And another thing which we are expecting our guards to do, and our security personnel really, is when we look at them, in case I can use this thing, a little loose comparison. What the country looks at at the military, be it in case of floods, be it in case of, at the national level, a company looks at its security personnel for similar things, be it any small crisis happening, the security is always there. Be it a small intrusion happening, the security is there. Be it anybody, there's a small workplace violence incident, the security will be there. So overall, it's the security which is, filling this particular role and doing a damn good job of it. So the blue collar, I think really speaking, the specifics for they having moved is already happened. Then another thing we've got that. How do you manage these guys? How do you build them up? Firstly, what is the quality of personnel that we are getting into our security services, be it our security agencies? What do we look at?
Kamal Sahab, I'll come back to you with that question, because I wanted to first ask the user Rekha and then Paul, like what Kamal Sahab is saying, that how do we train him and take him to that level? The expectations are certainly very high. We are asking him to learn technology, we are asking him to learn artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. We are also talking about him in the skilled category now, and we are giving him the minimum wage. What is the expectation, Rekha, you as a user in your premises from a security guard, and what is the difference between what it was about 2 years ago?
All right. So, Rajiv, I mean, if you ask me, and when we talk about expectation, let me just, make one thing very clear. When we talk about, upskilling, not just the guards, but, the whole security professional, it's not going to happen overnight. It will take, coordinated efforts by everyone. When I say everyone, I'm talking about corporates and the service providers. Now, coming back to your question, that if we have to train a security guard who is guarding our facility, what is that we can do? I think that's where corporates or the CSOs can actually provide, or rather collaborate with the service providers, so service providers and cooperate. So, and it has to be industry wise. So for example, there is an industry, so security professions are all across different industries, and different industries have their own demand, right? So let's say there's an industry who's dealing with technology. They would have certain requirement, for that particular corporate or companies, certain SOPs, but you need to train. So when I say you, I'm talking and I'm referring to the corporates, right? So the corporates need to really carve out a particular module for them to understand the industry and the company and provide that training. Similar way they provide this orientation to their employees, right? Now, because this guard is working and is associated with the corporate, I think the same applies to the guard as well. So those basic trainings from the corporate side, talking about the company's requirement and what is that they need to do, and then to service providers to kind of invest into the security guard and upskill the guard force as per their training module. So it has to be a holistic approach. Just saying that service providers' job to upscale and provide training, that's not going to happen. You need to collaborate with the corporate just to understand their requirement and just give the best practice.
Thank you, Rekha. Moving on to Paul, what is your take on this? What is the expectation that you have from the service providers, from the training of a guard? What has changed in the last 2 years?
Thanks, Rajiv. So if around 2 years back, somebody told me that the security guard will take the temperature of doctors, and I would have said, okay, you know what, I think I think something is not right with you. But then that happened. So we just found that the security guard who may not be able to converse with you in Queen's English is taking temperatures and noting it down, and being the hands and foot on the ground and the eyes on the ground and giving information back. So it's a question of, so again, it comes back to the fact that we as persons have not understood actually not understood the potential of using of security guards or security personnel who are deployed on the ground. So that is something that we've got to understand very carefully. And so a lot of times a lot of us are very happy in maintaining status quo. What is the next step? Where should we go ahead? That is something that a lot of us need to put our hands on our hearts and do it. So I too am again at fault, because I like to keep telling that what I have not done. So that's something that I've done very infrequently. So this is something that, so one of the first things that about security guards is that security agencies, that what is it that you're protecting? Like Rekha said, Hers is a high technology area, so you require a certain amount of ways that you're doing this. But if you're going to have a guard from one of my previous companies, which was e-commerce, Amazon, well, the Amazon guys' mindset will not work typically in a tech-enabled in a company, and vice versa. So, so there's one term which is used in Forge, which is percolated down to the civil also. Guard post instructions. What each post the work has to be done, that has to be elucidated and written in the most threadbare manner as possible. Because if you're going to tell a security guard, go forth and conquer, so he will do whatever he feels is right, and it is not his fault. I'm not saying that there are guards who are not doing work. There are guards, but what I'm saying is that you don't start off with the thing that by not giving him the basic ground details, giving the platform of expectation that is there. So that is something that we as professionals have got to actually put our mind to it. And again, if we have got to understand this, and that is again our way that we must convince our people. What are we trying to achieve? Do you just want a body standing over there, or do you want a skilled person standing over there? So if you want a skilled person who understands technology, who can understand things, so he'll become a force multiplier. And so can we eliminate persons who are not so skilled? So whole lot of, so that means again going back to the fact that what should I say, minimum wages. So minimum wage is something that is you are heading for disaster. I shudder to think if you're going to be in a technology company or in a sensitive place and you have minimum wages guy coming over there. I mean, I will say, it's going to be difficult. So those are certain things that keeps me awake at night. These are certain things that we have got to do. And picking on to what Rekha has said, that we have got to partner with the security agencies. That is very, very important. And sector-based skill training is very, very important. The soft skill that is required in a hospitality is different. The soft skills in a supply chain is different, and in industrial atmosphere is different. So that has to be told. So presently, all the security agencies which are coming, there are certain agencies who are providing time and effort and trying to tell them certain things. But with all due respect to the security service providers, they are providing generic training to the persons. So that is the place where we come in. That is the place where we have to invest. If you're going to expect that the security agency will only invest, I think that's wrong. We have also got to invest by telling them, what do I need? What can I do? How can we upskill? What are the places that I require? And it's not just telling that, you know what, I want to impose a fine on you. Okay, well, that's okay. I understand that. But there has to be change in the process to see that how it's going to benefit us. So these are some thoughts that I had on this particular thing. Back to you, Rajeev.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Colonel Saab, my last question to you is that how do we cope up with this sector-based training, and what a customer is expecting and how much security agency should put in? And I mean, all the customers may not be like Paul and Rekha. I mean, they would want, they would actually want James Bond to be standing outside them. So what is it that you are doing to cope this up with?
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. That's a damn good question. And you know what is happening? Definitely what Paul has brought out very correctly, that the generic, and if you really go back into the skilling, there is a complete skill ministry which has come up. The guards are being skilled as per the NSQF, National Skill Qualification Framework. They've got something called qualification packs. They've got national occupational standards based on which their curriculum has been designed. The Sector Skill Council under the NSDC is, laid out what level of training a security guard has to be undergoing. So all that is in place, is being, is being done at the training centers. But that actually is, as brought out, is generic. Now, I'll take you through a small episode or anecdote regarding what happened with me. I was heading the security of a company called Muthoot Finance. I was heading their thing. We had about 3,000 odd guards under me. And obviously, it was divided into various regions. And we were having a lot of dacoities coming in, a lot of break-ins, armed intrusions happening, and it was really going above the head. We were really finding a very difficult time. We were in a very difficult time to be able to manage the situation. So what did we do? We got into a team. We went and we started. We had I think it was more than 70 odd agencies across the country where we had guards coming in from. So what did we do? We started going down to the regions, collecting all the guards together, running a full 1-day workshop, right? And in that workshop, we did everything you could think of. We did role plays, we did demonstrations. We asked them exactly what were they facing, how were they getting, how were these guys getting through them. And with that, we got. I can only tell you, we got fantastic results, and the complete scenario changed. These guys, we were showing them videos of people, how they had penetrated the branches, had held up the branch, taken huge amounts of jewelry out of these branches. So when these people, they saw the videos, they saw what they did wrong. Thereafter, a complete change took place, and where 1 year we had maybe more than 8 attempts and break-ins, the next year we had 0. Now, that is the quality of requirement, or that is the type of requirement which we have to fulfill as the service receivers. We have to go forward, tell the service provider, this is what my requirement is. And of course, they were there. They were providing the guards to the reaching the workshops, providing them with all the wherewithal to reach, and being able to take the message forward after we had done the workshop, and then at their levels conducting further training. So, as very correctly brought out, it has to be a joint manship, it has to be a partnership, and thereafter we will see fantastic results. And I'm sure across all sites, wherever they be, this is the only way, because the training centers can only give generic unless there are very, very specific requirements coming from the principal employers, and they tell them, look, we want people trained on this, and then that can be done at the training centers. Yeah, Raj.
Thank you so much, Colonel Saab. And I think the important takeaway of this discussion is that, of course, the upskilling of a security guard is required, and we are definitely moving towards from a blue collar to a blue uniform. Paul, you want to say something?
Yes. So Rajiv, I've had the pleasure of meeting one of my earlier managers, one of the companies. So he obviously is in the US. He started his life off as a security guard, and then he became a senior director. So that is something wherein we have not been able to make headway. Because once that happens, then persons know that this is a profession which will pay well, and there's a career progression. Otherwise, you become a security guard, you become a security supervisor, and then you keep on rotating around the thing and not happen. So again, it goes back to soft skills, English speaking, and all these things. So that is something that we have not been able to pay attention to. Those are some thoughts. Rajiv, back to you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So, in the interest of time, I was about to wind this up, and thank you so much, Colonel Harjinder Singh, Major Paul Devasi, Rekha, for your contribution, for your time, for your deliberations. The topic is very interesting, and I think we can go on and on. But thank you so much once again. Over to Aditya.
Thank you so much, all our esteemed guest members, and of course our moderator, Mr. Mathur, Dr. Mathur. Thank you so much. Yes, it's time to get prepared. It's time to move ahead and march forward. things seem good as per all your discussions, and I'm sure we could go on and on and on, but in the interest of time, we will move ahead with the next and the last panel discussion for this day. It's on preparing Indian security industry for cyber security management. And ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming our panelists for this session. Sanjay Kaushik, ARVP, ACES International; Ratna Pawan, Transformation Director, Risk Advisory, Ernst & Young; Preeti Dubey, Founder and Director, Strive High Private Limited; and moderating this session is Colonel Inderjeet Barara, CIO and Chief Cyber Officer. Vara. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's so good to have you here. And Colonel, please, it's all yours.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone, and good evening, business world and Dr. Mathur. Really wonderful discussions I was hearing, and very inquisitive one, and very pertinent to the real life examples. That's more important. And thank you for this particular panel. And this is again something what we are trying to talk of, very futuristic, very much apt, and very much required for today's environment. And I have with me very august panelists. And first is the Preeti Dubey, who's there, and then is the Sanjay Kaushik and Ratna Pawan. And it's really a pleasure to have you on the panel. And just to give you as an opening remark, because we like to discuss on the very practical aspect of it, and what I would like to bring in, that the cyber attacks are really going. While we are talking, every 11 seconds there is an ransomware attack. They are very sophisticated, and every year, the magnitude is really increasing, and they have got a serious impact. Just to give you an example, most of you may be aware, may not be aware, that we are getting into the end of the year. We have been hit by one of the biggest vulnerability of our time. That's called the log4j, right? And that's the vulnerability in Java, and it affects almost every machine which is running on this earth. Nobody thought of that kind of cyber attack which can happen, a vulnerability which could be exploited. And what's happening? The companies are losing half of their net profits due to the cyber attack. Now, what it entails is that if the companies are really not planning how to prepare for the cyber attack, and we are all aware the cyber security was always the last point for discussion every time in the board meeting. Notwithstanding, seeing the magnitude of the cyber attack, the boards now want to discuss the cyber security, the cyber posture of their companies right away. And the cyber security management becomes more important from a strategic point of view. While we talk about the operational point of view, we have different security controls, we have firewalls, we have the endpoint securities, but at a strategic level, do we have the cyber security policy in place? Do we have the cyber risk management in place? Whether we have the cyber incident management in place, right? All those factors now become really very important when we go from the point of discussion. So I will, now pass on to my panelists and ask Preeti Dubey, as to what is her view on the cyber security posture. What are the challenges what we are facing right now? If you would like to throw some light on. Preeti, over to you.
First of all, thanks a lot. Warmest greetings to each and everyone here. And I would like to thank BW Business World and BW Security World for the opportunity to address such an august audience on this momentous occasion of Outstanding Security Performance Awards. And thanks to your question, I'd like to begin with a statement. There are two types of companies: those who know that they've been attacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. And these are the famous words of Mike Rogers, the chairman of House Intelligence Committee US. Now, this may be a hypothetical statement, but it is profound and calls for attention to the greatest risk organizations and people face around the world, because everyone, every business, most people, all of us are going virtual every single day. Now, given the fact that as per the government data presented in the parliament, nearly 1.16 million cases of cyber attacks in India were reported in 2020 alone, making an average of 3,137 cybersecurity issues reported every day of the year. And perhaps there are as many, if not more, cases that were even unidentified. The cost of data breach report 2020 released by IBM reported that the average cost of data breach in India in 2020 was 2 million, which is an increase of 9.4% since 2019. Now, since the arrival of COVID-19 pandemic, India has witnessed a 4,000% increase in phishing emails and a 400% spike in the number of policy violations. 66% of the organizations in India have suffered at least one data breach or cyber attack since shifting to a remote working model during pandemic. And as per the Internet Crime Report by FBI, India is ranked third in world among the top 20 countries being victimized by cybercrime. Now, the digital technology is woven throughout the fabric of society. Business systems, accounting, banking, engineering, and product design, command and control, manufacturing operations, communications, supply chains, air traffic control, unmanned vehicles all make extensive use of digital technology. And the dependence is deepening. And given the fact that there are 1.18 billion mobile connections and 700 million internet users and 600 million smartphones, which are increasing in 25 million per year. The point that I want to highlight is that under current circumstances, with the evolution of this industry revolution 4.0, IoT has created a network of billions of smart devices that communicate with one another. And this network, ranging from simple light bulbs to sensitive command system, is rapidly expanding. So together, we are in a space where these devices are constantly talking. And the most vulnerable of the entire system, like the saying is that security is as strong as its weakest link. And the most vulnerable of it all is the human being. So I would discuss that point later, but to your question, this is what this is where I see that we are at a point that we really need to have this discussion and come up with some real solutions. And that's what I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Prerna. Really wonderful, Preeti, really wonderful points. And you've given actually the whole holistic view of what's really happening today in the cyber world. And the cyber situation is really very trivial when it comes to the security point of view. So I will just move on to Ratna for giving her viewpoints as to what are the the cyber risks which are there today and how she looks at it.
Hi, Kanasang, and thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to thank Business World. I'd like to thank Dr. Rajiv Mathur and for this, and thank the other panelists as well. I'm really glad to be here. And I'm even more glad because I can really see good diversity here in this panel, which is normally not the case in most of the panel discussions I've been to. Anyways, coming back to your question, Kanasang, Preeti did talk through a couple of statistics, but let me start off, and I'm going to focus on the whole pandemic and its relationship with the cybersecurity management. The world as we had known had anyway started moving towards a digital ecosystem for work, banking, entertainment, communication, which the pandemic only accelerated further 18 months back. Also, we now acknowledge that the pandemic may abate in the medium term, even as the Omicron is upon us, but the digital transformation will continue unabated, as will the remote workforce to an extent. And we all know that all organizations are talking about moving some portion remotely. However, the cyber threat landscape has also grown dynamically as an unintended effect of this progressive momentum. We all acknowledge that. Motivated cyber criminals prey on societal vulnerabilities, and COVID-19 was definitely not an exception there. Again, quoting some statistics, that Preeti mentioned some very interesting ones there. But let me state a few as well, because I believe sometimes stats can speak better than just English words. The rate of cybercrime increased by 600% during the COVID-19 pandemic. Costly ransomware attacks, data breaches, and technology outages affecting major corporations became a regular facet of news in 2020 and continues well into 2021. The two sectors that we know were most impacted are healthcare and financial services. Since I'm from the financial services industry myself, that's something that I kept a close watch on, and a very disturbed watch on, of course. During the pandemic, almost all work that could move remote did so overnight very efficiently. And it's no wonder here that according to Cisco's 2021 cybersecurity threat trends report, the email phishing attacks accounted for 90% of all data breaches while working from home. Again, employees are obviously moving away from their secure office environments with enterprise network monitoring, firewalls, event and data analytics to more vulnerable home networks containing maybe rogue devices or outdated equipment, weak or non-existent, home Wi-Fi security, and so on. But interestingly, surveys suggest that almost 50% of employees cited distraction as the main reason for falling for a phishing scam while working from home. And I think Preeti said that as well. And I repeat here that therefore, people are the weakest link in any security chain anywhere, right, which we all acknowledge. Also during the pandemic, certain types of attacks like the COVID-19 themed attacks, where the cyber criminals wove the pandemic into their phishing or social engineering scams, just jumped manifold. The associated data and privacy concerns also got enhanced because now attackers could more easily fake digital identities and hijack data remotely. As per a Gartner report, 50% of respondents had experienced a cyber security risk incident in the past 2 years. And I think the balance 49% are not aware that they have, but eventually I think they will realize that as well. Again, quoting a very disturbing statistic, cybercrime is expected to result in a total loss of $6 trillion worldwide by the end of 2021, growing by 15% per year until it reaches a staggering 10.5 trillion by 2025. Now, I wouldn't want everybody to just focus on these numbers, but this is just to show a trend of where this is all going, really. And this is honestly just a looking glass into what the future of cyber threats might look like for us, all of us. Back to you, Colonel Singh.
Thanks, Ratna. Very insightful and good points which you brought in. And I will move quickly to Sanjay, and then I'll come back with the second round. So Sanjay, what are your views on the overall scenario and the challenges which we are facing right now?
Thanks, Colonel Singh. And at the outset, let me first of all congratulate Business World and OSPA for the fantastic event and the awards which they have launched in India. This is the second award in the row they have brought to India. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you for having us as a panelist here, and a very important and a very pertinent topic which we have been discussing, I think, throughout the pandemic. Only thing which we were having to our rescue was, I think, the internet and the computer, because we were all locked down into the rooms. This was the only thing which could have taken us out. We could have spoken to people, we could have seen people on the screens, otherwise we were all locked down. So looking at, whatever my both co-panelists, Ratna and Preeti, had spoken about, they have given a lot of statistics. So I'll just refrain talking of more statistics here. But I think one thing which is important, and both of my co-panelists has agreed that the human is the most weakest link in the entire security system. I have been talking in past quite a bit on this, that you might spend millions of dollars in, you could spend capex of millions of dollars in establishing the best of the infrastructure, best of the equipments, best of the firewalls. But if your team is not trained enough, if your team is not aware enough, what will you do? Now look at the pandemic situation when it started. we were all not ready that this is going to happen. And the lot of back offices, which were never allowed to work from home, were suddenly asked to work from home. Now, they were not having the systems at their places. I know a couple of clients of ours requested us to get them help to get opened some of the warehouses of companies like Dell or other laptop providers, where they needed the pass, they needed the movement pass and the COVID pass and everything. And they could have taken their systems and dropped these systems to the houses of the people who are working. Now, were these people actually trained for that? Were they aware of what the cybersecurity is? When we look at training and awareness, we look at of the right now, no, we are looking at future, that if in future some eventuality happen, what is we going to do? So it has to be, cybersecurity has to be looked into a very, very different way of how do we train our people, how do we keep our people aware for a longer term impact which might happen. It's just like an insurance. Training and awareness is just like an insurance, that if something wrong happens, then how are you going to act? A lot of time people will have the mock drills at their offices for fire. How many times have we started doing the phishing attacks simulation in our offices? Some companies, yes, I know banks, I know some of them do, but largely people do not go for simulation of phishing attacks. Some of our clients have started doing it. Some of our clients have gone through, after the second wave was over, they were preparing for their IPO. One of them went for the ransomware attack. Their entire back office servers, entire data was encrypted, and they were into big soup because they were just preparing for IPO. Now, before IPO, if you are under a ransomware attack, you can understand the impact of that on the entire organization. The another organization, their entire data was available on dark web. Now, since we were helping those companies to look at dark web and monitoring of dark web, that if there is some data, we could have informed them even before it was gone to media or somebody else, and then they were able to take care of that. But is everyone looking at that serious? I've been talking to a lot of my friends in the industry, in my clients, that is the cybersecurity only a responsibility of a large corporate? Or we have to look at cybersecurity from a small, probably a very small business having 2, 4, 5 computers? Are they not required to have cybersecurity? They are. They might not able to spend huge amount of money, but they could be made aware, they could be trained, and they could at least put certain kind of programs, firewalls, antiviruses, which they can help so that they are not under the attack. Because if anyone into your ecosystem gets attacked, and from that vendor, if you are dealing, which is a very small vendor, and he sends you a mail, and that mails can contain trojans or malicious activity, which can actually impact entire of your system. So that's a large problem to look at. Again, the other thing which I always talk about is to develop a security program or a cyber security management program in today's digital world. Cybersecurity needs to evolve from a back office IT issue to an enterprise-wide business consideration. We need to look at 360 degree. We need to look at the entire risk management. It's not only cybersecurity. It's not only the job of CISO. It is the entire enterprise risk-wide business consideration which we need to look into this. Cybersecurity management processes can be looked as a complex system of interrelated elements that act in concert with one another to achieve the overarching goal of secure systems. It's to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. And this may be used, these techniques can be used to improve security of the organization, which could be policy, technology in particular, and driven by some policies. The cybersecurity management processes applies technology and requires effective planning in order to achieve the goal. I've been always talking about the planning. A lot of clients of ours calls us and tells us that, okay, I need a ISO 27001. I need to be compliant. I need to do this. I need to do this. My first question to them is, are you looking for a certificate, or are you actually looking at implementing the ISO or ISMS certification, ISMS, controls? So most of the time, the client will say, okay, I'm ready to invest my time and energy and money. But how many times the client actually gives you time? Because even the top management, if they're ready to give you time, how many times it is that the HODs, the different vertical heads will give you time, because it is their involvement which will only help you to effectively implement the controls into the system. These are my initial points. Over to you, Karan Singh.
Thanks, Sanjay. And very interestingly, this is a pain point is the skill gap which is there in the cybersecurity, and where we are actually finding the pinch of the having the right skilled people in the cybersecurity. And the other aspect which you brought in is very important from a practical point of view. So, the net, it's a challenge. What we are seeing, practical implications are difficult, and implementations of cybersecurity to the grassroots level becomes majorly a challenge. While we say, while COVID-19, we know all the figures on the table, we know the challenges what we face. We know that now there's a challenge that we need to train the last person in the company and the top person in the company for the cybersecurity. And my question to the panel is that should we leave the cybersecurity aspect in the Indian scenario just to the CISO, or the management should take the leadership role to drive the cybersecurity measures, and they should take into account what are the risks of cyber attacks on the organization and their impact on the company, while also conducting cyber security investment, because without investment, we talking about the cyber security will really not fetch results, and that's really going to work for the growth of the company. So I will like to move again back to Preeti first, and then to Ratna, and then coming back to Sanjay again. Yeah, Preeti, over to you, please.
So as I think that's a very good question that you have raised, Colonel Indrajit, that is it just the responsibility of the C-suite? It is important to remember that C-suite actually creates the tone. The tone is set from the top. The culture of an organization is set by the top, from the top, because everybody in the hierarchy is there to please the top. I mean, you get the value system that an organization kind of imbibes. It comes from what the people in the leadership position, what their value systems are, what they perceive as more important. So a cyber security, I mean, security in itself, like understanding risk, taking extra steps to manage risk is an extra process. Risk management itself, it causes a kind of inconvenience, for somebody to do their job, day-to-day job in a very conventional way, but then to finish their job in the required time frame, vis-a-vis being careful about every email that you get, or being careful that if there is anything suspicious that you need to take an extra step, that takes a little bit of time. Now, what are the protocols of the organization as such? So those really do determine the behavior of the people in the organization. So whether people perceive the risk, they do the right risk assessment, are they aware of the, of doing the situational awareness properly? Are they prepared to take the next steps to mitigate the risk? All of that comes through the guidelines set by the top, and of course with the HR and the risk management system, etc. Now we've all agreed that a human aspect is the weakest link in the cyber security piece. And the threats posed by social engineering are misunderstood primarily because a lot of the topic of cybersecurity has been really studied from the angle of, say, engineers, IT people, but the topic of human behavior. Why do people fall for say a phishing email? Why do people not kind of create emails which are complex and not so simple, like, you know, having a spouse's name as a password? So these kind of things, these kind of behavioral issues need to be seen and addressed from a behavioral perspective, from a psychologist perspective, or we can even call it, you know, like the business, like, you know, the behavioral economics aspect of it. So what is it that that is incentivizing the hackers, and what is it that might incentivize the employees to actually not succumb to these kind of pressures? So assessment planning and cyber resilience are definitely key areas that must be integrated into the cyber aware culture that needs to be set across the organization. Now, since the introduction and, you know, proliferation of the internet, problems involved with maintaining cybersecurity have grown exponentially and involved into many forms of exploitation. Yet the cybersecurity has far too little study and research. So incorporating a little bit of behavioral cybersecurity and training the people, what the approach that we need to kind of apply is having a greater understanding and generating more awareness among people, so that they don't succumb to those risks easily. In the last panel discussion, I heard that the risk-taking behavior in India is quite rampant. So, then the way we evaluate risk, the amount of risk that we take, or the people in the organizations take, so those some kind of training to make them aware that what it can eventually lead to, not only for the organization but for their personal, you know, issues as well. Social media awareness, fake news. So there are so many areas, and with the Internet of Things, everything getting connected, and the data more, which is like so much data is available for people who are sitting there just waiting to create, find the opportunities to hack as the weakest, the people who are vulnerable, or the areas that are vulnerable. So perhaps this kind of risk awareness, having the habits to and also the right policies and the knowledge about how to manage this risk, I think would play a very, very eminent role in creating a culture within an organization where people do not fall for for such cyber security related issues.
Yep. So thanks. You brought in cyber resilience. So that was pretty important, and cyber hygiene, and some of the strategic level things which are very important from a company's perspective to be cyber safe. I move on to Ratna, and for your viewpoints on the same aspect.
So, Colonel Singh, just to answer your question, C-suite, obviously, we all understand, sets the tone from the top. But what they lack is an understanding of cyber security aspects, which is where the CISO comes in. The CISO brings the subject matter expertise to the table, but definitely it is not just the CISO's responsibility to ensure that that particular organization is cyber safe, because it is not the job of one person or one department. I am personally a strong proponent of organization resilience as a concept, which means that it is not just managing any one particular risk in a silo, but bringing all of the risks, understanding all of the risks, doing a risk analysis across the spectrum of risks that can impact the organization, all of it resting with, maybe a few people within the risk management team who understand the basics of this risk, of course, and taking the steps necessary to ensure that the organization is not only cyber safe, information and security, data security, because all of these risks right now we understand are linked. So if one is compromised, the other is compromised. If there's a cyber attack, your data is compromised, your privacy is compromised. So if ever there was any doubt, I would say that the only way forward in this rebound area is to apply security by design. State-of-the-art technology solutions and innovative security management techniques will be required to save the organization's digital as well as physical assets, with obvious focus on, network security, threat detection, and security monitoring, of course. Organizations will need to target the risks that matter most in the race to the digital and the hybrid future that we are seeing. Basically plan practical strategies to address the most significant future risks and prioritize the risks according to the rating, because you cannot target everything, right? Also, I think one of us spoke about the fact that not all organizations have focused cyber security expertise within the organizations. And I think, Sanjay, you spoke about it in terms of smaller organizations, and that's where the real risk is. And these smaller organizations are feeding into the larger organizations either as a vendor. So like we speak about COVID, nobody is safe unless everybody is safe. So going by a statistic, and if you believe it, then by 2025 60% only of organizations globally, and that too in highly regulated industries, is expected to have dedicated cyber risk management, which means that we still have a large percentage of especially, and I think that that's the SME that we're talking about here, which will still have a lack of expertise and maybe lack of funding, maybe lack of know-how in terms of protecting their environmental thing. And that's where we need to be careful, of course. Otherwise, there are multiple industry risk management frameworks that are there today for organizations that describe the expected steps or processes for management of cyber and IT risks, like the NIST 800 or the ISO 27005. But to Sanjay's point, how many of us or how many of the organizations are getting into it for the certification versus to really implement and augment their risk exposures and risk management frameworks? So that's that for me, Colonel Singh.
Yeah, great. So, one point which you have aptly brought it out, that it's not just the CISO who's responsible, and it's a whole lot of people who are there, and the people who are, giving the budgets for the cybersecurity are very important, right? And security by design, because most of the companies, they don't go by security by design, they go security by requirement, right? So that's the biggest challenge. So over to you, Sanjay, and your points as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think both of you, my co-panelists, have covered it very, very vastly. And, the first point in my first turn, I spoke about that, is that only a CISO's responsibility? And I think you covered it on the second point. However, looking at, again, going back to the same thing that, when we talk about CISO, what is that CISO going to bring in? Ratna very aptly point out that CISO is going to bring out the technology, probably the expertise. He's the subject matter expert. But how much the emphasis on the training and awareness is given, that's something which is very, very critical. If your entire team, like Ratna again very, very aptly said, that we are not safe if we are not 100% safe. It can't be that 60% are okay and 40% are, allowed to click on any of the email which is coming in. Your systems cannot be safe, whatever you might do, whatever systems you put in, whatever firewall you put in, whatever endpoint security you put in, it is a difficult task. Just look at the password policy. Some of the CISO says, okay, especially you go to the banks, every bank has a different password policy. Now, some of the banks have started using that you cannot use the last 3 passwords. Now, what we do is, just for the ease of remembrance, just for the something, we will keep a very, very simple password. First time we'll keep 3 zeros. or 6 zeros or 8 zeros, whatever the numbers is. Next time it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next time it is something else. And these are the 3 passwords which is gone. And somebody was telling me the other day that I've kept 4 passwords and they are rotating, because you can't keep the 3 passwords in a row. It's the 4th one which comes in, and every time I rotate the same thing. Now, is that the meaning of the policy? How many times we are careful of changing the password before the system is popping up us and telling us that you need to change your password? How many times you have said, okay, it's good thing that we'll change the password, or we have just kept like this that, oh God, once again I have to change the password. And the kind of number of credit cards each one is having, the number of bank accounts each one is having, your official computer, your mobile, and you don't know how many things, your iCloud and Gmail and whatnot. How many passwords one will remember? Somebody, in one of the conferences asked me that, what is the best way to remember your password? I said, don't remember, just use the forget password every time and put a new password. That's a very innovative idea to look into it. But how many passwords will one remember, and how many times are you going to keep it into the, is the keychain safe? Are you keeping your all passwords in the keychain? Is it safe? Is writing somewhere safe? There was one client of ours who came to us. He said, my iPhone has got reset. And you know what? I had invested good amount of money in cryptocurrency, and I have taken a photo of that, which was there in my iPhone, and that now the mobile has reset, the entire data has gone. What shall I do? I said, okay, let's try some of the tools which we have to recover your data from there, but I don't know how much will be successful, because iPhone, when we deal with it, the tokens are actually gone, and it's not there even on the hard disk of the mobile. So that's work in progress actually right now. We're trying to recover that. And I said, even if we recover it, we'll take at least 1 Bitcoin from you as a fees. That was on a lighter side. He's not going to give us 1 Bitcoin. But look at the kind of issues and the problems people are having. So are we looking at only CISO to look into your cybersecurity, or it is the first of all, is it not only CISO, but it has to actually come from CEO. Now, certain acts like GDPR and Data Protection Act are going to make the CEOs liable for the security and the cyber security of the organization. We did a survey a couple of years back on cybersecurity preparedness of corporate India. We at Netrika did that. And we found that maximum, I think 65% of the companies do not even have a CISO in their organization or a dedicated cybersecurity person into their organization. The IT managers are typical IT network guys who just know how to do the troubleshooting and let the emails and other things in the office run. They're not even aware of what cybersecurity means for them. So it is all about how, again, it has to be a top-down approach always, whether you're looking at putting up ISMS, whether you're looking at ISO 27001 or some other things. It is all about how are you looking at, and what is your top-down approach to look into cybersecurity? What is the kind of budgets you're looking at? What kind of sincerity, what kind of seriousness you have about security? It is similar like any other security. When we talk about, in the previous panel discussions, we spoke about how the technology is taking over. Now the technology is taking over entire risk portfolio, entire security portfolio. When we are putting up the locks now, which are, you're opened with your Wi-Fi tools, or probably your thumb impression or retina or whatever, your technology is taking us to a very different level. But does that mean that if you're not aware of the security protocol on the cyber side, nobody actually needs to break the lock into of your house. It is just about, hacking into your system and entering into your house when you're traveling outside. It just takes few minutes. Or probably there is a photo which I generally show in a few of my presentations, which is of computer, and a hand is going inside the computer and stealing your money. So nobody actually needs to be at your home to steal your money. He could be sitting in some other country, few thousand miles away, and just taking all away your money on the click of a mouse.
Yeah. So, thanks, Sanjay. Some takeaways which all three of you have given is, at a strategic level, I just say, cybersecurity is a major issue. And I'll before I close, I want to have a quick round of questions. One question, and that's very important. So, but at a strategic level, I personally feel, and what's coming in from you, we should have a business continuity plan specific to the cybersecurity. Your cyber risk management, we talk of it, but it has to be retrospectively put in on paper. Disaster recovery plan from any cyber attacks, your incident response plan from the cyber attacks, and your cyber resilience, of course, that's very important. At a strategic level, they need to do it. So before we close, I just want to work on the Indian scenario, because that's one area which we have to always discuss, and India being a huge market when it comes to the cybersecurity. So where do you see India where do we stand as regards the cybersecurity management as on day? So a quick one. So before we close, I think we have 3 minutes to close the session, so we can work on that. Over to you, Preeti. Are we prepared? Are we not prepared? So you can just give it a quick viewpoint on that.
Yeah, we are a long way from being prepared. There, as we all agree, and we've all acknowledged that the cyber security threat is only increasing, and with AI coming in, probably this is going to grow even multifold. So preparation is very much needed, and it is. Like all of us just said, not just the CSO's responsibility, right from the CEO, and generally when we see the organizations, the compliance and the security officers are the ones that people like to within the organization, they like to surpass those. So the right kind of emphasis on actually following the policies which have been created, and instilling the right risk management behavior through training is very, very important. And so I think,
Thank you. Just on the short of the time, I want to be bang. I want to hand over on 6:30 sharp to Dr. Mathur. Ratna, just over to you. A quick one. Your
yeah,
point.
sure. I'll just finish in one sentence. According to me, in India, the digital adoption is very high. But cybersecurity as such, I think baby steps yet, long way to go. That's all I'll end with.
Thank you very much. Thanks. That's really interesting. And Sanjay, from your side.
We are far away to even say that we are cybersecurity prepared. I just said that we had at Netrika launched a survey. The report is available on our website. Very interesting report and very interesting findings. We have also launched a awareness program around 2.5 years back, just before the COVID, on an FM, where we were giving tips on the people to just understand what they should do and what they should not do. I think we are not there. It's a long way.
Agreed. And everybody resonates the same thing. As the Indian industry, we have a long way to go. We have to really work on the strategies. We really need to work on the policies. We have to have a top-down approach, and cybersecurity has to come to the forefront to safeguard. Just by saying, I'm secure, don't be, take it that you're not going to be hit by any cyber attack. It may happen the very next second. So that's the situation we are all in today. So thanks very much, my panel, Preeti, Ratna, Sanjay, for very insightful discussions, very interesting discussions, and very pertinent topic what we touched upon. Thank you, Business World, and thank you, Dr. Mathur. Over to you. And it's exactly 6:30. I think we did it in time. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Colonel, of course, apart from moderating the session so well, dot sharp 6:30, you gave the session back to us. Thank you so much for that. I mean, of course, as everybody's valuing time a lot. So thank you so much, all the panelists, and of course, Colonel Singh, for moderating this session. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our sessions for this day. And now, for the vote of thanks, please help me in welcoming on screen Dr. Rajiv Mathur, Regional Advisor, Asia, OSPAs.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditya. When we come to the vote of thanks session, that means we are coming to the end, but I think none of the session that we had earlier, any one of us wanted that to come on a close. Fantastic discussions we were having. I am being in India and representing OSPAS, so I have first two very important people to thank. First of all, Professor Martin Gill to come to India and give us the opportunity to the Indian security industry showcase their performances at the global level. So thank you, Martin. Second, since I represent OSPA, I would like to thank Dr. Anurag Batra for associating, partnering with OSPAs and make this a lovely event here in India. Next, Kumar Vikram Singh sir for chairing the jury and for your opening address. And I would like to thank all the panelists, Major Vashita Mehra for your fantastic keynote address on women empowerment. I mean, you truly deserve and are an example of women empowerment, as I know you as well. Thank you so much. Fantastic session moderated by Mr. Vishal Thapar and Major General Soi, Captain Tyagi, Captain Sanjay Sharma. Thank you very much for your insightful deliberations. Major Manjit Rajayan sir, thank you very much for your keynote address as well as the fireside chat with Dr. Batra. Thank you, my colleagues in the panel, Major Paul Devasi, Colonel Harjinder Singh, and Rekha. Last but not the least, and of course, when we talk about cyber security, you know, as the last takeaway was that, you know, we are not prepared about the cyber security as of now. So it sometimes sounds very scary that, you know, how much of risk we are sitting at. So thank you so much, Colonel Barara, Preeti, Ratna, and Sanjay for your insightful thoughts and making us aware about the cyber security. Next, I would like to thank all the associations and the jury members, Mr. Shiv Charan Yadav from EPSA, Major Paul Devasi and Sanjay Kaushik from ACES International, from CAPSI, of course, Kumar Vikram Singh sir, who is also the jury chair, as I just mentioned, Balwant, my dear friend from GACS, Captain SB Tyagi sir from ICISSM, Mr. Nand Kumar from ESAI, Sanjeev Sehgal from SPGI, Mr. Tapan Chakravarti from ISSPA, and of course, last but not the least, Ms. Veena Gupta from WES. I would also like to thank our presenting partners, CP Plus, associate partners, Peregrine, and of course, media partners, International Security Journal and Security Link India. Also, thanks to all the nominees and finalists, and congratulations to the winner, which will be announced very, very soon. Last but not the least, BW Business World and BW Security World, and the entire team who's been working day and night to make this event successful. Alice, Sonia, of course, Aditya here, and Claire and Christine from OSPAs back in the UK. And everyone else who has been a part of this activity, thank you so much, and we look forward to see you soon next year. I would not stand in between a fantastic keynote address immediately after that, and then, of course, for the award ceremony. Thank you very much, everyone.